It's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
Ben and Woods on the Fan.
No. One of his bandmates had Elton John as his name, and he said, I like that. And he just took it.
Taking it.
He just took it.
Actually, I'm going to...
WFN HD1 San Diego. The NFL plays here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Always live on the free Odyssey app. This program is sponsored and produced by Let's Talk Hookup. Opinions and offers expressed during this program are not those of Odyssey or 97.3 The Fan. Sometimes they tell some pretty hefty fish stories. We don't know if they're true or not.
And now it's time for Southern California's sports fishing voice. Let's Talk Hookup. For the next 2 hours, join Pete Gray, Rock Cod Rick Maxa, Cory Sanden, and this week's special expert guest for fishing information, new techniques to catch more fish, and the most current scoop on what's happening in the water. Let's Talk Hookup is sponsored in part by Royal Polaris, the world's finest long-range sports fisher. By Ford, the official truck of Let's Talk Hookup, and Shimano Rods and Reels. Fish with the best. Shimano. Get ready for the fastest 2 hours on radio with the hosts of Let's Talk Hookup, Pete Gray, Rock Cod Rick Maxa, and Cory Sanden.
Good morning, anglers, and welcome to Let's Talk Hookup, man. We have a fun show for today. Pete Gray is out of the studio today, out doing a little trout fishing in Montana, but, man, we are going to have a fun one. We got the man, Eric Landesfine, author, fisherman, great dude, going to be joining us today. We're going to be talking all kinds of fishing. You got Cory and I for the next 2 hours. You stay tuned. You're listening to Southern California's sport fishing voice. This is Let's Talk Hookup on the Let's Talk Hookup app, Facebook and YouTube Live, and 97.3 The Fan.
It's employee pricing, and it's happening now at your San Diego County Ford dealers. That's right, employee pricing across a full lineup for trucks and SUVs. A lineup featuring California's #1 truck brand and Ford F-Series, America's all-time best-selling SUV and Ford Explorer, the iconic Ford Bronco, and more. No automaker employs more hourly workers or assembles more vehicles here in America than Ford Motor Company. And that's a commitment your San Diego County Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing to you. It's only for a limited time. Exclusions apply. Hurry to your local San Diego County Ford dealer today.
This is Duke Ekstrom from the Royal Star. In 1983, a group of intrepid anglers envisioned crafting the best sunglasses on the water. It's true now as it was then. Costa's performance frames excel in the toughest of elements. These styles are packed with functional features that create a competitive advantage for any adventure on the water. From the lake to offshore, Costa's Performance Collection has a legacy of helping anglers stay on the water longer. Learn more at costadelmar.com.
For your next fishing adventure, check Point Loma Sport Fishing. They offer half-day and full-day trips daily, perfect for families and the novice or seasoned fishermen. Point Loma Sport Fishing also offers overnight to multi-day trips, targeting the best of seasonal catches. Visit PointLomaSportFishing.com, where you can purchase tickets online and get more information on the trips available, or call 619-223-1627. Want to go fishing? Point Loma Sport Fishing has you covered.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup. And not only stoked to have our guest in studio, but man, the fishing is absolutely insane, firing on every cylinder. Got the inshore, the offshore, and how about those sandbass counts, man?
That's been pretty fun. Yeah, you said it best. You know, when it's firing on all cylinders, there's great tuna fishing to be had. Finally, you can catch a tuna fish in the daytime. You know, You don't have to be up at 2 a.m. fishing a yo-yo jig in the dark. Like, there was really good fishing. What was fun this week, at least down at San Diego, like, there's great jig striking going on. Crazy. It was like the old days. The last few days of the tackle store were extremely reminiscent of the albacore days, minus the albacore. Like, there's a new batch and area of fish that's relatively close to. It's like where we used to catch a bunch of albacore. You know, it's corner and 302 and 371 and 425. It's like all that local bank.
But jig strikes.
There's a lot of 5 to 40 pound bluefin. Most of them are like 15 to 25 pounds, and they're biting the trolling jigs. A good, there were boats that were talking about having 15, 20, 25 stops, troll fish, and then again, fishing Colt snipers on the slide. And then to really bring it home to the albacore days, it's all small bait at the receiver right now. Every boat that left yesterday was, buying 2s and 4s, and we sold every bag of split shots and rubber cores that we had. we just have a peg's worth of rubber cores and split shots and a couple of boxes and backstock. No bulk of that, and it's all gone. It was just wild. Really fun tuna fishing the last few days, and there's still big fish at nighttime. There's still great big fish fishing on the Kite around Clemente. But yeah, great tuna fishing, and then you said it too, that sand bass fishing is wild.
What the
Fun.
heck, right?
Yeah.
I thought they were depleted. I thought they were gone.
Yeah, the long lost sand bass that has disappeared from Earth. Well, Eric, we're certainly excited to have Eric Landesfine in here, and just very pumped to have you. And it's been a fun year for things like that. And the sand bass that was gone. I know bass fishing is just one of the things that's near and dear to your heart, but something you do a lot of, and it's fun to see the depleted gone. Every seiner caught everyone and fed them to the bluefin pins, and then next thing you know, like, oh, never mind, it's wide open and they're all big ones. And it's pretty cool.
That's what's happening right now. Is this full moon that's happening right now? There's spawning sand bass all the way from Santa Barbara to the Mexican border. It's I don't know. It's pretty reminiscent of previous cycles prior to 1998, anyway.
And I think you said it right. The 90s. I mean,
Right.
How many decades has it been?
It really feels like it.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
Yeah, it's like 30 years, right? 35 years.
and they're legit size. Here's my question. All these scientists and all this knowledge and all this stuff, where have the 12 inchers been that now they're all 3 to 5 pounders?
Yeah, I
Right.
truly believe that these fish are not resident fish. They're just coming up here or coming from somewhere.
Sure.
And it's I fished last week. I fished the Newport pipe or Sanden River pipe, whatever you call it. We caught calicos and sand bass on crankbaits in 50 and 60 feet of water. Then I went out the next day and caught sand bass in 80 feet of water on crankbaits. I mean, I haven't fished migratory sand bass on my own boat. It's easy. You drive around with the side imaging on out to 100 feet, just like a sonar. You find a school, spin around it,
There they are.
and they're biting on the surface.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, so 80, 90 feet of water, but
Yeah,
up
we're
on the
fishing
surface.
10-foot running baits. We Matt and I fished for probably 2 hours and probably had 50.
and
No.
Matt's your
Yeah, my fishing partner.
Yeah.
Sorry. My boat partner, as my wife calls him, my same-sex life partner.
there it is. Super cool dude though.
Absolutely.
Matt Koch and artist extraordinaire.
Yeah, he's getting back from a cruise here tomorrow or the next day. We're going to fish next week. So
That's fun. It's been really fun too, Cory. You mentioned the size of this fish. It's really cool being at the shop, and it's the perfect thing. It's perfect for everybody. It's fun. It's fun to go yanking and cranking and jump on a half day boat and catch a bunch of sand bass. If you don't like it, this sport probably isn't right for you. Like who doesn't like getting to go on the boat, chuck a lure, wind it back, and have someone climb on all the time? But it is the most cool, kid-friendly fishery. And the last few days at the shop have been exactly that. Bunch of kids going in that. But when they come back, the social media pictures are nothing but all these, young groms that are stoked that all have 3 and 4 pound bass and limits, and every kid's in there grabbing swim baits for their bass rods. It's awesome.
And not only here, but up and down
Totally.
the coast.
Totally.
yeah, and the advantage that private boaters have now prior to when these things were here before, in the old days, you go get a tank of bait, anchor up on the flats in your skiff, deal with all the other nonsense and all the other boats. Nowadays, you don't need to do any of that. You just drive around. You can use bait if you want to, but you don't really need it. And every skiff that has a trolling motor now has spot lock. So you just slide up on these things, spot lock, hold you in position. You're not drifting all over the place. You catch, instead of catching 1 or 2 fish and then drifting off it, you can sit there and catch 30. So makes it a lot easier. Technology definitely helps in that. Side imaging helps find them.
Yeah, that is something, Eric, that I know you write about a lot. Again, an author for various places. We've seen a lot of your stuff on Bloody Decks, a lot of Pacific Coast, and a lot of other places. And one thing that I know you pride yourself on and do well is your relationship with electronics companies, writing about it, but also practical use. You're a very big talk the talk and walk the walk guy. You fish it,
Right.
Yeah. And that's something that, you just scratch the surface there, but has really come a long way as technology does. It doesn't like get better by the year. Like each year that goes by, it tenfolds itself. And
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, wasn't that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, we didn't even have good charts.
Right.
Then, Navionics came out with their relief shading, and now I use the Simrad product and CMAP, but there are no more secrets.
Yeah,
It's everything is so obvious now. I actually went and took all the waypoints off my graph because it was just hindering my ability to get these spots. You know,
the dots start to cover the relief
Right.
shaded areas where you're like, hey, but there's my spot, quote unquote, that I had. I didn't even realize it was covering up the way better feature that was just 100 yards away from the rock but we. In all the time setting up on it, we never spun on the actual best part of it.
Yeah, a good example of that is my friend Eric Noguchi. He's a real good inshore fisherman, but I fish with him down here at Point Loma. He's all, I got this couple pinnacles out here on Point Loma that I catch calicos off. So we go out there, we took my boat, and I had the better charts than he did. I'm like, that's not two pinnacles. That's a long ridge that you're fishing. You're just driving back and forth over it. It looks like that. So it gives you a more comprehensive idea of the lay of the land. It really gives you an advantage that you never had before with, you're old enough to remember, Cory, when we used to have you probably are too, when we used to have land bearings and things like that. And it's almost like cheating now, especially with the side imaging. You can basically, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's your up and down meter, but it shoots at an angle outside within your side of the boat. So as you're driving, you can cover 200 feet of water, off to the side of your boat. So you're not just relegated to what's underneath you. And you can see stuff off to the side. I mean, I've been rock fishing in an unfamiliar area and found a big rock in 600 feet of water on side imaging.
That's crazy.
300 feet away from me.
So that's very worth bringing, because one of the things people would say, like, I don't know what you say, the naysayer of it, side imaging is only for freshwater because it's too. It only works in shallow water. You can't use it out to the deep. It's not practical for what we do. Sure, maybe for fishing spotties, but you're getting a good picture shot out to the side of your boat in full rock cod zone.
Yeah, take that to the next level. When I'm fishing offshore for bluefin, a lot of times in the morning they're not up showing. I'll see sheer water staying in the water. I'll drive around at 6 or 7 knots with my side imaging out to 500 feet. And I found bluefin schools like that I babysat until they popped up on the tide.
That's cool.
That's incredible. I mean, it's sport boat style.
Yeah, absolutely. The one mistake that a lot of guys make with the side imaging, though, is you have to realize that you're seeing wherever your transducer is.
Right.
And if you got one dragging off the back or one towards the transom, a lot of times people don't realize that what they're seeing is right behind them.
Yeah, you've overshot it.
Yeah, so you just need to the minute you see something, just take the boat out of gear and just spin it around in the circle, and you'll get a better view of the whole thing.
The other thing that's fun, and you mentioned it before, the Navionics stuff. What's wild is not long ago, the highest end gear you could have on a private boat. Today, you can have on an app on your phone, and it'll be, your phone that's in your pocket right now can provide better charts and better navigation than the highest end unit could have just not that many years ago.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And the nicest thing about it is, you're gonna go somewhere unfamiliar. Like I do a lot of shallow water rock fishing up to the Channel Islands. I'll plan to run to San Miguel Island or something. It's pretty long run, so you don't have a lot of time up there. So the week before I'll go, I'll just sit on my app all day, picking spots that I want to check out when I get underwater. And I've already got a game plan before I even get out there.
So what is relief shading? You throw the term out and people are like, oh yeah, it's the game changer. But what does that even mean? And what is it like? And how are you able to pick a spot when you're still sitting at home on the couch, having a cold one, getting ready to go the following day?
Right. So basically what it comes down to is the technology came around. I think Navionics was the first one to have it. Everybody has it now, but they took the normal charts that you would see that show the different depth changes, which were just lines before. And they've linked that up with satellite imaging of the undersea topography, and they match those. So now you can see anything that's on the bottom anywhere you go. There are some false things where there's overlays and things like that, but where I fish in Long Beach a lot, the break wall that they built, there's a bunch of rocks that they dropped off the barge while they were building that back in the 30s. And you can see a rock that is, if you zoom in enough, that's maybe 10 feet across in 50 feet of water.
Right.
That shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But it is. And you either ran that over and pinpointed it and had it in your back pocket, or you can pull out your phone and zoom in with 2 fingers and know every little thing. Like it really was so you're no longer seeing topographical lines. You're seeing the actual bottom.
Yeah. You can see the actual shape of the rock. You can see basically everything. I've spent my whole life fishing around Long Beach, and I had 3 or 4 spots off the break wall that were rocks that were dropped that I was not aware that what it was. So when I got this chart, I went to the first spot, and then I realized, hey, there's 200 of these things out here. And you can make an entire day of just pulling up to a rock, dropping a slug on a lead head, your 8-inch slug on a 1-ounce lead head there, and catch bass all day long. You're not catch 50 bass off a rock, but you catch 2 or 3.
That's funny.
And then go on to the next one. It's 200 yards away.
Make your day of connecting the dots.
Absolutely.
That's cool. That's really cool.
It's pretty neat for sure.
Yeah, Eric, one of the things that I like so much is, your background of getting into this is different than most. You and your partner have done excellent in the world of competitive bass fishing and skiff fishing and those kinds of things. But both of your backgrounds come, or at least at yours, I shouldn't say that, Matt, I don't know, but I know yours comes from the sport boat side of things.
Yeah, Matt does as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we both worked. He used to work on bongos at a Newport back for Joe Barry a million years ago.
That's going back.
I still had the bongo song. Cool. And you guys remember the Fred Hall show? They used to have the Bongos fashion show and all that.
We used to Let's Talk Hookup was the MC of the Bongos fashion show. I'll never forget it. Yeah, of course.
But you take the rod and reel stuff you learn on a sport boat, and once you have that figured out, all you have to do is figure out where to go, and you can do it on your own boat.
There are. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's experts in any field, and there's phenoms at every sport and those things. But that's a really good background, because the sport boat angler tends to have the ability of being a really good angler. You get really good at picking baits and fishing baits and picking casts, and because you spend 100% of your focus on casting and catching the fish. You don't worry about where you're going or what you're doing. And on the flip side of that, the really good private boat anglers are often very good at finding spots and learnings, but you're spending half of your time not perfecting the cast or picking a bait or one of those things. And that's a really unique perspective to get to have that background first.
Right. It's funny you talk about the private boaters, fishing the saltwater bass series and SWBA and those things. I'll fish against guys that have a freshwater background or guys who've only had a private boat their whole life. And I'll watch them fish, and they just fish weird. They don't cast right. They don't do any of that other stuff. So, somebody that's on a sport boat, if you go out regularly, whether you plan to get a boat or not, what you should focus on is watching the guys on the boat that are catching fish, and not just worry about how the lure they're fishing. Look how they're casting. Totally. Look how they're hooking their bait. Look how all the different stuff happens. And once you figure that part of it out, you don't need to learn it anymore. And once you master it, just move on to the next thing.
We say it a lot when it comes to long range fishing and multi-day fishing. A regular fisherman that goes on the half day or the 3/4 day boat, twice a week. And a lot of times I'm like, I've never done an 8-day trip. I'm nervous about that. It's like, man, you are going to get on the boat and likely be, the best guy on there, or the top of the top, because there's no replacement for cycling through hundreds of baits. There just isn't. And you'll watch those guys. It's just so effortless. You go to the tank. That's clearly the best one. Pinning the hook on is effortless. Casting, and that's so much of it. That somebody else has already put you on it. Like, all you got to do is get a bait to them. And
and if you're a guy that fishes local, especially half day guys, some of the best fishermen I've ever met are the guys that fish half day boats out of Redondo or Long Beach or things like that. And the reason they're the best fishermen is because fishing is tough.
Totally.
You have to have the perfect bait.
Yeah.
If you're going to catch 2 yellowtail on the boat, and as opposed to going into Coronados when they're wide open and catching 100, you got to know what you're doing to catch.
Not going to happen by accident.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's so cleanly put, really, because that competitiveness was what drives the 45 of your best buddies on the boat.
Yeah,
right?
exactly right.
So, Eric, how did you make the transition from working on sport boats and that to what you do now, which is a lot of writing, a lot of teaching everybody else how to do it, a lot of competitive fishing? Like, how did that path happen for you?
Well, it's kind of funny. I'd actually gotten kind of burned out of sport boat fishing because the conditions in Long Beach had changed after the sandbass and barracuda went away, to where they're fishing sculpin and other things like that. I just really got pretty heavily into snowboarding at that time, and I wasn't I'd fish during the summer, and Matt, my boat partner, he hit me up. He's like, hey, let's buy a little skiff to go fish the breakwall with. That, 17 years ago or 18 years ago. And we did that, and it just kind of opened my eyes to all the different possibilities. We've had 4 boats since then.
Kicked in all the other things that now exist.
Exactly right. And, I realized in hindsight that I'm much more interested in being the captain than I am being the angler. There's a lot of trips where I'll go out, or, especially if we fish boiler bass or things like that, in areas that are too rough to put the trolling motor down. I won't even fish. I'll just drive the boat all day and point the boat in a certain direction, and one of my buddies will catch a fish, and I'm stoked.
There's a high level of satisfaction of like putting all the puzzle pieces together and be like, okay, now you can't, that is the definition of a team thing too. You can't do one without the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And also with, game fish, bluefin, tuna, marlin, whatever, it's just fun to put somebody who's enthusiastic to catch the fish on the fish, let them hook it, let them catch it. I mean, with these bluefin the way they are now, we won't even, Matt or my friend Jimmy Decker and I, we won't even go and cast at fish over 100 pounds unless we have some, like we'll bring out Jimmy's son Briggs. If he's not on the boat, we're just trying to buy that school. Let's buy some 50 pounders.
That's hilarious.
You don't want the ass kicking.
No, I mean that's the no fun part.
Yeah.
The fun part is hooking them.
Yeah, watching the bite. Yeah, watching the bite, watching the first run go by.
And the harvest. I mean, if you're after marlin, it's a cool catch and release scenario. But
the bluefin's a production.
Right, exactly.
And, you got to deal with all.
And to be able to have the harvest and have it on the boat between the 2, 3, or 4 of you.
Yeah, and we when things were first biting, we go out and catch 500 pounders. Then we get home and it's like we're gonna spend the entire day cleaning these things
and moving them around and getting them out of kill bags and getting them into trucks. And
it's a production. That's why I like bass fishing. You catch it, you take it off, you throw it back, you catch another one.
It's good times for sure.
Well, Cory, as you can hear, we got a great show. Really fun to have Eric in here. And again, just haven't scratched the surface. I mean, this is a guy that does it all and has done a fantastic job of teaching the rest of us, his brand of doing it, and very knowledgeable. It's just going to be a really fun show, and I'm totally looking forward to hanging with you two guys today.
I agree with you, Rick, and I'm looking forward to hanging with you too, man, and having Eric Landesfine in here and talking bass fishing, bluefin, and all this cool stuff, and just stoked to have him in studio. And if you want to join us next 2 hours, 833-288-0973. The first hour here, we are on 97.3 The Fan. And that telephone number again is 833-288-0973. Or you can send us a text via the app, and only done through the app. And it's a super easy download. It just says right there, text the show, and you can send us a message. You got a question or a comment for Eric. Maybe you enjoy his Thursday videos with Bloody Decks, BD
Outdoors.
Outdoors.
You for mentioning that.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing, right? I mean, it's just something, and we'll get more into that as we get in. We'll be right back. We're giving away, actually, to one lucky caller or one lucky.
How about having a guest that comes in and brings like the raddest prize ever? Like, very, very cool today.
A Fathom 300 low profile bass fishing reel right here. I mean, how many bluefin have you caught on this?
Quite a few.
So it's a Penn low profile Fathom 300, a fantastic, crossover isn't the right word, but it is. It's a low profile style bass reel that's just at home, having a lead head and a 5-inch weedless, as it is having some kind of a stick bait popper catching
we've got bluefin up to 100 pounds on it, so they hold up.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
And a brand new Fathom 300 to one lucky caller or texter at the end of the show today. As always, we decide that with a coin flip at the end of the show. Who's got to be a fantastic reel for one lucky caller or texter. And
I think it destroyed the box.
Cory broke the box.
When your box is apart, you can thank Cory for that. But the reel's still brand new.
Hey, we're going to be right back on 97.3 The Fan, YouTube, Facebook Live, and at Let's Talk Hookup app.
Looking for the ultimate Alaska fishing experience and the best value in Alaska? Look no further than Kingfisher Charters in Sitka, Alaska. A trip to Kingfisher includes everything you need to make your experience legendary. The finest fishing fleet in Sitka with the best captains, deluxe accommodations, gourmet food, world-class fish processing, and the best part, it's all included for one amazing price. Kingfisher is Let's Talk Hookup's most popular destination. Hundreds of listeners have experienced Kingfisher Charters, and most go back again and again. You have probably heard a lot of big promises from other Alaska lodges, only to find there were lots of hidden charges. Not Kingfisher. Everything is included. 10-hour fishing days, your license, fish processing, super deluxe accommodations, amazing food, airport transfers, and fishing gear. All you bring is your layer clothing, and Kingfisher covers the rest. Kingfisher Charters, your Alaska fishing destination. 800-727-6136 or check kingfishercharters.com.
This is Captain Tim Ekstrom from the long-range vessel Royal Star. With my partners Randy Toussaint and Brian Sims, we have set the bar for the long-range fishing experience. Spring 8-day, summer 5-day, or fly-down, fly-back 11-day winter trip, we deliver the highest quality long-range voyage you will find. From our premium RSW fish storage to our top-of-the-line chefs and crew, Royal Star distinguishes itself from all others. Want to grab a spot on the Royal Star? Check us out at royalstarsportfishing.com or call Tracy at 619-224-4764.
Pelagic is bringing back the California Tuna Challenge. Get ready for the most exciting tournament to hit the West Coast on August 22nd and 23rd. It's about the fun, it's about the tuna, and it's about your chance to cash in on big prizes. An affordable $500 entry fee per team gets you in. This fun 2-day format is open to all Southern California anglers with 3 official weigh stations in San Diego, Newport, and Catalina. Optional jackpots and side bets up to $41,000 all in will raise the stakes for huge cash payouts, including options for yellowtail and dorado. The big tuna are here. Win some major cash and bragging rights in the ultimate California Offshore Showdown. Registration is now open. Go to pelagictournaments.com for additional information, rules, and to register for this great fishing event. The Pelagic California Tuna Challenge, August 22nd and 23rd. Just $500 gets your team a shot at the ultimate California tuna bragging rights. Check pelagictournaments.com.
Turner's Outdoorsman, Southern California's #1 shooting, hunting, and fishing tackle retailer since 1971, is right in your neighborhood. Now with stores throughout Southern, Central, and Northern California. No one does it better. Turner's Outdoorsman brings you the best prices and selection, plus a knowledgeable staff that will help make your day on the water or in the field more fun. Stop by your neighborhood Turner's Outdoorsman. To find a location nearest you, check the web at turners.com and sign up for special deals and more.
See you later.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup, and so stoked to have Eric Landesfine in studio. How do you pronounce your last name properly?
Landesfine.
Landesfine.
You've been saying it wrong for years, Cory.
You know what?
It's the E before I.
Yeah.
That's what it is. In German, that's a I sound, not an E sound.
And I mean, so many people look at your last name and probably wonder the same. So,
Yeah,
and I've known you for how many decades, right?
A long time.
Right?
A quick funny story about my name is, my wife's a veterinarian and she used to be Baker and now she's Landesfine. And she had a client come in and she's like, I want to see the woman doctor. Well, we have 2. Do you know her name? I think it's Dr. Frankenstein.
That's great.
That's hilarious. But so stoked to have you in studio,
Thank you.
regardless, Eric, and appreciate coming in and bringing a Penn Fathom 300 for a lucky winner, caller or texter. And if you want to join us, 833-288-0973, or you can send us a text via the app.
You talked about knowing each other for decades. When we had that fun story we were talking about. It really felt like albacore fishing at the store. Like I definitely had one of those. Like, man, I can't be old enough to remember. Oh, this was just like what we did 20 years ago.
You're that guy now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were talking about that, and then all of the guys I work with who are, we are extremely lucky at the crew we have at Fisherman's Landing. I'm very, very proud of it. But our kids are they're killers. We have a really, really good crew. We got very lucky this year. Like it happens a lot where, you get like the 3 or 4 year of just like, man, we are really running on all cylinders. Our job is like a great spot for a kid that's going to college. And, we usually get them for 2 or 3, 4 years while they're going to college. And then they usually have to go get a real job. And then we start over again. We're in that like middle time where everybody's done it a bunch and they're just fishing their butts off and really good. I mean, I learned so much from our guys. But the reason I tell this story is none of them were even alive the last time there was good albacore fishing.
Think about that.
And I mean, these guys are killers. And I'm not just saying that. Like they are extremely good at what they do and so knowledgeable to the nth degree about all this stuff. And like, there's not an albacore caught amongst, just about all of them. And it was just fun. It's really cool times in fishing right now.
Think about the sandbass fishing in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a 30-year-old and
right. They're babies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, pretty fun. And a great time right now and great fishing. And we're just looking forward to hanging with Eric and talking about it. And the phones are packed up. If you want to get your chance to get through this morning, give us a call at 833-288-0973. Again, 833-288-0973.
All right. You jump into it. Let's talk to John Cohn from Escondido. Good morning, John.
What's up, John?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. And I do appreciate you mentioning that Eric is the guy from on Thursdays, because now I can put a face to the voice. And so, but my wife says hi, Ricky. and she's my always telling me to go fishing, have a great time, and stuff like that. So and you guys make it easy. And Cory, we get to go fishing up in Canada here in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
getting stoked.
Yeah, and you're on the trip, to Queen Charlotte, or
I am. I'm on the second one. So this time you'll see me getting off the airplane.
Oh, okay, yeah. Actually, Hawaii, yeah, it's an amazing. That place is in my heart, and just an amazing place.
I'm just looking forward to seeing, like, you like scratched the surface on the first one and then kind of got super into it, and hearing all the stories of like the captains and crew members of the different boats when Cory would pull out that 8-inch slug and the lead head, and they're used to fishing a certain way, and they did the classic, like, I don't know, man. I don't think that's gonna work around here.
Yeah, exactly.
To flash forward to now, like, hey man, are you to bring some more of those slugs up with us? And
well, no, they actually the first drop was okay. Well, you got more. We could, hey Cory, while we're moving to the next spot, rig everybody up.
Nice.
That's gonna be pretty cool.
I can't wait.
Yeah, fun times.
You're gonna have a great time, John, and it's one of those things that if you haven't been, you don't know. But just know that it's a beautiful place. The limits are very giving.
Yeah.
Canada,
not like Alaska.
Oh, it's I don't want to say anything wrong, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
Just know that.
You're gonna you talk about having the harvest. You're gonna be harvesting some
bounty.
Yeah. Your issue is freezer space when you get home. You gotta be making a Costco run to get another one to fill her up.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Well, have a great trip, John. Appreciate the phone call very much. Had a fun text come through. Says, good morning, guys. I absolutely love the weekly fishing reports from Eric on the BD Outdoors YouTube channel. Tons of detail, unsolicited advice segment is great too. My question for Eric is, could you give me a rundown of the 3 rod and reel rigs that you feel an angler should always have when you're fishing general inshore species, including a must-have artificial bait recommendation? And then also, if you don't mind, could you give me your favorite nighttime bluefin fishing setup as well? That's from Ralph and Menifee.
Oh, hey, thanks, Ralph. First of all, my favorite nighttime bluefin rig is my couch. So you're barking up the wrong tree on that one. But you can never go wrong fishing inshore. Either if you're a sport boat guy or a private boater, you want to have some kind of bait caster rig. A Penn Fathom 300 or a 200. So, one of the things I got to talk briefly here about these low profile reels nowadays, they're all basically the same size. And what you end up with, the 200 and 300, unless you look at the side, you can't really tell there's much of a difference, is the gear ratio on that. And the 200 is normally a lower gear ratio, which is good for crankbaits or swim baits, whereas the 300 size can be a little bit higher gear ratio. I would always, if you're going to take one, I'd take a 300 size reel and probably a 710 graphite rod. You don't need to get anything fancy. You can go into the Fisherman's Landing and, just pick up a Shimano or a Phoenix or whatever. Get some MC swim baits, 5-inch Viejos. You can fish it as a weedless swim bait cast. You get burning on the surface. You can sink it out. I fish all those lures on a boxer head, BMC boxer head. There's a lot of great war baits and all the other ones with the weed guard on them. You don't really need that if you're just, it's more of a hindrance than a help, I think. And what's your favorite color of your 5-inch, Cory?
Color on the 5-inch? I mean, for me, it's secondary, really. But
Yeah.
I love the blue grunion.
Yeah, so any kind of baitfish color.
Or an orange belly, like the traditional, greenish brown.
Yeah, and I can tell you, we've
color.
caught fish on all those colors, and it doesn't really. We just have one color. They call it the hot cotch color after Cory made it for Matt. It's a greenback, gold belly. We have that in the 5-inch Viejos. We have that in the 7-inch weedless, and we have that in the 8-inch and 6-inch slug or 7-inch slug, and we never throw anything else. So you're right about color not being an issue.
How crazy is that?
Yeah,
right?
it's great.
I mean, that's your one color. Seriously, like Matt will call me or Eric will call me, and hey, we need some more, and it's like, it's like not even a second question. Like, what colors? Like,
that's the only color anything, and it just shows you the color doesn't really matter that much. And as with anything else, it's the wand, not the magician. Or it's the magician, not the wand. Sorry about that when it comes to getting bit. But, you're going to want something you can fly line with. Nowadays, I'd fish I don't really fish a lot of bait, but if you're fishing anchovies, you're going to want a little, what's the size down from like a 25 narrow Penn fathom?
You do a 15.
A 15, you can fill that with 30-pound braid, a little light fluorocarbon top shot. You can fly line a sardine or an anchovy with that, and always bring a jig stick. That'll cover all your bases. Yeah.
That's such an important rig too, especially with what's going on right now. We kind of talked about it in the beginning of the season when there was the scare of not being sardine, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But I mean, let's be real. This week, if you're going to the bait receiver right now, there's no sardine in it.
Isn't that crazy?
If you don't have a good rig to fish a small bait anchovy with, it's probably time to start thinking about it. And we're in such a good place with tackle right now that doesn't mean that you need to spend $1,500. If you have an unlimited budget, there's some really good high-end tackle available, but there's also nowadays, there's some really good gear that's not too terribly expensive. Toriums and fathoms, and there's all kinds of really good gear that would have been overwhelmingly the top of the line not long ago. And a lot of manufacturers have done the same thing. They figure out how to build this very high-end killer platform first, and then as years go by, they find out a way to take that technology and put it into materials that cost a lot less money. And you get, I always think of like a Trinidad. To me, a Trinidad, the single greatest star drag casting reel ever. And then they came out with the Torium. Like the Torium's not quite as good as the Trinidad, but it's half the cost. And it's definitely, and a Trinidad isn't twice the reel.
And the average guy's not going to know the difference.
Yeah.
So, you talk about the smaller baits, one of the things that I would advise everybody that fishes on sport boats, especially, is that if you have not fished with anchovies before, you need to learn how to cast an anchovy. And you need to do what we did in the 70s, sit in your backyard with some light thing tied to your line and learn how to do a pendulum cast. Yeah. And that makes it's not the overhand cast like a sardine. It's an underhand lob out. Those anchovies are very fragile, and the other aspect of it is you can't fish them as long as a sardine. If you fish an anchovy, if you don't get bit in 30 seconds, that anchovy is no longer functioning properly.
You're actually soaking it that long, 30 seconds?
I
say that because it's really the first 5 to 8 seconds determine everything. Right?
It's that bait hitting the water, getting it to swim away from the boat, and once it stops swimming, it may be 5 seconds, it may be 20 seconds, that bait is done.
And the other thing too, I'd like to add on is if you're not a good caster and you're all of a sudden you're hearing this right on Southern California Sport Fishing Voice, Let's Talk Hookup, and you're worried about, gosh darn, I can't cast an anchovy. Like, hey, walk into a rig shop, walk into a tackle shop and purchase Current Snipers, formerly known as a Colt Sniper. Just you could get everything done from bass to bluefin with that thing.
There was like 7 or 8 boats that left yesterday going tuna fishing, and virtually every one of them told every passenger, everybody gets on board with a 60 to 100 gram Colt Sniper and some small hooks. And again, it was like we keep saying the same thing. It was just like albacore fishing. That guys were getting jig strikes on 20-pound tunas,
Incredible.
And then guys were casting out and fishing the slide and bites on those things as they were sinking through, and bites on anchovies. And you're dead right. It's a skill set that it's just not the same. An anchovy doesn't weigh the same as a sardine, and it doesn't get that spool to start to roll. And there's not the same level of inertia to get your spool to start to turn.
And
it's all of the mechanics are different. It doesn't mean that it's impossible to learn. It's just different.
It's just going to take some time. And one of the things you talk about, that inertia of the spool, if you're underhand lobbing an anchovy out with a pendulum cast, you actually let your thumb off the spool before you even begin to cast to let the weight of that thing start the spool, or you're just going to end up casting that bait off. And I don't know about right now on the sport boats, but back in the old days, again here, fishing albacore. Last time I caught them was in San Quintin back around 2003. We didn't have bait, so we would troll, and we didn't have Colt Snipers or anything like that. So we would just put a 4-inch swim bait on a lead head and drop that back on the slide, and it just rope them. So that's something that you could do as well. And I'm sure Cory, a 5-inch Viejos on a 3/4 ounce head, drop back on the slide would probably be a pretty quick bite.
Yeah, I mean, it would work for sure, right? I mean, that's going back to Barry Breitenberg and the whole fish trap era, and that really
the Channel Island Chovy
started the whole thing. But that is a good friend for a private boater. Like that,
absolutely.
Like your $30 spent on that,
oh man,
that could go from trip to trip and make your whole trip.
And and in the albacore days on our skiff, I can't tell you how many times when it was tough jig striking and it was hard to get a bite.
that would get bit.
The boat stopper for us was always exactly that. It was a 5-inch Channel Island chovy, 3 times the distance back that we would normally fish in. And it wasn't usually good for giving you a big bait stop, but man, you could make a day picking off singles and singles and singles when it was really tough to get a bite on anything else and tough to get the boat stopped. That thing was the money maker for us.
Yeah. Rick, you're getting me so fired up talking about the bluefin.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
don't listen to me here though. The sand bass, the bluefin, everything going on. These are the good old days.
Yeah.
Like we're living the good old days, right?
Yeah,
here.
you can pick and choose what you want to catch. That's
Dude,
the
white
beauty of
sea
it.
bass and the
Right,
halibut
yeah.
fishing the last 2 years is better than it's probably
Certainly been in my lifetime.
ever been
Yeah.
in a long, long time.
And and it just really speaks to how healthy our fishery is on the sides of tuna. Like there were spots of 5-pounders jumping
Crazy.
around, spraying out salary schools. And then on the same day, there was guys that were fishing big lures and spreader bars and getting strikes on fish above 120 pounds. There's big fish on the back of Clemente. The average fish is bigger than that. It's just good. It's healthy. There's multiple year classes of fish around. They're all available. And that's just on the tuna side of things. Starting to see yellowfin sprinkling in here. It's just
incredible.
It's good, man. Yeah, life is real good right now.
Bring it on. Hey, we're going to be right back. More with that. Eric Landesfine when we return on the Let's Talk Hookup. Did I say it right?
You got it.
Eric Landesfine when we return on the Let's Talk Hookup app, 97.3 The Fan, and YouTube and Facebook Live.
Rock Cod Rick here to tell you about Parker Boats and the guys at West Coast Marine. By now, you all know my boat partner and I bought a new 25 Parker center console from crew at West Coast Marine in Costa Mesa. We've known for a long time that a Parker was the boat for us. It's a stout workhorse of a boat built to last and get you home when the seas get rough. Parker Boats at the launch ramp, the offshore tuna grounds. You wake up in the morning on an overnight trip, and there they are. Parker Boats of all sizes, fishing in the same areas as the sporties. There's a good reason for it: fishability and seaworthiness. West Coast Marine has several new Parkers in stock and ready for delivery. And they have more on the way. Don't get caught without a reliable boat when fishing is this good. Take it from me, if you're ready for a new Parker at a fair, upfront, and honest deal, you need to see West Coast Marine. Check out the inventory and information at westcoastmarine.com.
The fish are biting and it's time to go. Hi, this is Ben, and you will see me at my dad's shop, Dana Landing in Mission Bay, or maybe in front of the shop on my kayak. It doesn't matter if you are out there on a kayak with me, on your boat, headed out on a sport boat. Dana Landing has everything you need. We call it the one-stop shop for a great day on the water because it truly is. Food, bait, tackle, beverages, and more. Our tackle shop, headed by John, is certainly one of the best. For freshwater tackle, nothing beats East County Bait and Tackle. These guys have the best rods and reels and the hottest lures and live bait. Our newest shop is Lemon Grove Bait and Tackle, with a great stock of both fresh and saltwater tackle right in the heart of Lemon Grove. ECBT is at the end of the 67 freeway on Mapleview and Lakeside. Lemon Grove Bait and Tackle, 94 to Broadway in Lemon Grove, and Dana Landing is next to the Dana Launch Ramp in Mission Bay. Check out danalanding.com for more details.
One rod has set the standard for serious saltwater anglers worldwide, and that's CalStar. From the rugged dependability of the West Coast Series, the lightweight strength of the Graphiter, or the performance of the GG Series, all CalStar rods are handmade right here in Southern California of the finest materials and craftsmanship. Check out the new CalStar models now available, as well as upgrades to the classic rods that you know and love. If you want your tackle to be state-of-the-art tools to get the job done right, it's CalStar at fine tackle dealers.
Have you been looking for a live bait hook that keeps live bait alive? Look no further than Japan's leading fish hook, Gamakatsu. It's the little things that make the difference, and Gamakatsu hooks drive the point home. With an absolute perfect bend and ideal barbs, your bait swims harder and longer. And when you get bit, Gamakatsu hooks bite back with a vengeance. All hooks are not the same. Go with Gamakatsu for infinite success. Gamakatsu, simply the best. Check gamakatsu.com.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup, and having so much fun. And man, we got the killer fish reports coming up. Got your calls, text, and more. And just stoked to have Eric Landesfine in studio, man. Talking good times and having fun. You want to join us? First hour here, we're on 97.3 The Fan. And the second hour, we're going to be only on the Let's Talk Hookup app or YouTube and Facebook Live. And if you want to join us on the phone, first hour, 833-288-0973.
You said it best, man. We got the catch board standing by. We got Marcos on the line. And, man, I would bet that this was probably a pretty damn good week to be at C4 Sport Fishing.
Man, I can't wait to hear Marcos. And it's brought to us by Dana Landing on Mission Bay. It's your one-stop shop for everything you need to go fishing. It's a complete deli, beverages, boating supplies, as well as one of San Diego's most complete saltwater tackle shops. You can also check out East County Bait and Tackle and Lemon Grove Bait and Tackle. They have the best in both freshwater and saltwater, along with live bait. And Dana Landing is right next to Dana Launch Ramp in Mission Bay. ECBT is at the end of the 67 freeway in Lakeside, and Lemon Grove Bait and Tackles on Broadway in Lemon Grove. For all of this, you can check danalanding.com, and can't wait to hear this one, Marcos. Good morning.
What's up, Marcos?
Good morning, guys. How's everyone doing today?
We're doing great, buddy. Awesome. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, it's been a little busy here. As you know, you can imagine, I'm in the middle of July, and some fishing to go with it. The new Seaforth on those half-day trips, some really, really good sandbass fishing. They're catching limits or close to limits on sandbass on those trips, some rockfish. Saw barracuda sneak into the mix yesterday. Same for the twilight, very good sandbass fishing, a little bit of other stuff in there. And just a quick reminder that the bass limits are a little bit different this season. I'm not sure exactly when that switchover was, but be careful about that. Double check there. You can only take 4 sandbass out of your limit there. So double check that if you go do that yourself. If you want to join us, I'm in great sandbass fishing on the morning, afternoon, and twilight. The Sea Watch fishing locally on those 7 to 4 trips. Seeing a little bit of other stuff in there, yellowtail, barracuda, calico bass, and great sandbass fishing yesterday. San Diego fishing those full-day trips, and the Sea Watch also filling in on some of those. Still seeing that bluefin, a little bit of yellowtail in there, and a little tougher. Those full-day trips are definitely seeing the bluefin. There's still a kind of a little tough bite there, but I mean, again, that's talking about bluefin on a full-day trip there. Overnight trips, very similar. Bluefin, yellowtail in the mix. Some of those guys fishing sandbass also. So all around great fishing, some great weather. And once a bit warm inland, we all know what a great way to get out and beat the weather, get on any of those trips there. So check the website, seaforthlanding.com. Our full schedule up there for those half days, the 3/4 days, full days, 1 day and a half longer there. Make your reservation straight online. Give us a call at the office, 619-224-3383. We're happy to help you guys out, get you all set up, get you on a boat, and get you out there fishing.
Man, dig it. Marcos, great report. Glad to hear such great fishing going on at Seaforth. And one more time, if somebody wants to come and join you, do exactly that. Beat the heat and do it with some fish catching. How do we find you?
Check the website, seaforthlanding.com. Our full schedule is up there, and we've got trips, I'm pretty sure, scheduled out to September there, so you can plan ahead. And it's definitely time. I mean, the San Diego's full through almost the whole month here. I think they got a couple openings at the end of the month. Sea Watch is filling in on those full day trips when the San Diego's full, so you've got options there. Like I said, day and half days, everything. Just call the office, 619-224-3383. Come down, visit us in person, get your gear tuned up, and get out there fishing.
The consistency that Matt and Captain Ryan catch offshore fish with such limited time in a busy area just blows me away, man. There's no surprise that the San Diego is full through the darn near the end of the month. It's just really cool to watch, and what a fantastic job those guys have already done this year. I mean, there was some really good scores this week, both on bluefin and yellowtail on a trip that you got to sleep in your bed in the morning and you get to go back to it at night. It's pretty cool to watch. Well, Marcos, glad such great fishing going on at Seaforth, and we'll look forward to another great report next Saturday.
Talk to you then, guys.
Thanks, buddy, very much. Well, the phones are packed up. Corey, why don't we jump back into them?
Let's do that, Rick, and talk to Robert. Robert Cohn from Canning Country. Good morning, Robert.
What's up, Robert?
Good morning, guys. Great show as always. You guys were talking about trolling. I'm going out on the horizon with 3 of my grandsons Friday night, and just what we were trolling.
There was a pretty classic good fishing yesterday. I can tell you that what a lot of the boats have been coming in to buy have been various forms of swimming plugs. Whatever your favorite would have been, Rapalas and Halcos and Nomad, Mad Max, and all of those things. But all variations of swimming plugs. There was a lot of, as you would guess, a lot of cedar plugs and cedar plug chains. Previous to this round of slightly smaller fish, when there was a lot of bigger fish around, we saw a big resurgence, for the private boat guys in spreader bars or other things that were like, commotion surface and all the kite things too. But if you were jumping on a sport boat, a lot of times they're going to have gear. I mean, I would say most all the time they're going to have gear available for you, and it's hard not to just grab the boat's gear that they have that's been working. It's I would just get on the boat and ask one of the crew members what has been stopping the boat, and either run up to the tackle shop and grab that, or just use what's tied onto the back of the boat's rod. But it's fun. It's fun that that's the thing around. There is a high level of excitement here, and the clicker go off to start your sport boat stop. It's a pretty cool way to get things rolling. Well, best of luck for you. I hope you guys have a great trip. Let's grab another, Cory.
Let's do that. How about Roy? Roy calling from San Diego. Appreciate you calling, and welcome to Let's Talk Hookup, Roy.
What's up, Roy?
Hey, good morning, guys. Question. So I'm trying to look for sand bass for that star tournament, and I'm limited to the bay, and my fish finder is old, so it doesn't have side scan. What are some things on the fish finder? Maybe I'm looking at the bottom, or am I looking at depths and stuff? What should I be looking for?
You're talking about San Diego Bay?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there are channels in San Diego Bay that have hard bottom at the bottom of the channels, and you can see it on your chart. If you don't have a good chart, just download the Navionics or the Simrad app onto your phone. You can find those areas. You're going to drive along those channel edges and look for bait balls. What happens is when the current goes in and out of the bay, the channel edges create turbulence, which aggregates plankton, which the bait fish feed on. And the larger sand bass will be sitting in those areas where those bait fish are. I wouldn't bother trying to mark bass themselves, because they are normally, sand bass are designed to lay on the bottom and hide. So they're just down there looking up, and you just drop your 5-inch MC Viejo swim bait down on their heads, and you'll probably catch some fish. And if you do catch fish, just circle back to that same spot and drop again.
If he's fishing star tournament and trying to, like you're talking about, trying to target a bigger fish, how big of a bait is too big to fish in the bay? How big is too small? I just see it a lot in the shop where people think, I'm going to the bay, so I got to fish something that's 3 inches long.
If it were me, I'd be fishing an 8-inch MC slug on a 1-ounce lead head. And
a man after my heart, right there.
There you go.
Right.
And one of the problems with a lot of swim baits and bass that are looking up is they will bite that bait head first. And when you set the hook on it, that bait will be pulled backwards out of their mouth because the hook is pointed away from their lip. And you can add a assist hook to your the ring of your lead head, free swinging, or you could actually even remove the actual, cut the hook down and put a spring on that lead head, twist that slug on. If you guys go on my YouTube channel, Eric Landesfine, I actually have a little video tutorial showing you how to do that. But what that assist hook will do is that when that fish eats that bait head first, that hook will be pointing in the right direction when you set the hook, while your fixed hook will not. It'll definitely improve your hookup ratio.
It sounds so confusing to somebody that can't grasp that visual, but it makes 100% sense if you understand. Like those teeth marks on the lure that came scratching down, and you're like, dude, this thing had it all the way up. But yeah, it was actually in backwards.
Yeah. So an example, if you want to try it at home, is lay a lead-headed swim bait in your palm, close your fingers around the tail, and then pull on the tail. It's going to slide right out of your hand because the hook is not pointing towards your fingers.
Well, yeah, but Eric, I was pulling on him. Well, yeah, he had his mouth shut.
Closed,
and yeah, you were pulling on him for a while, but eventually it does come out.
Yeah.
And that hook rigged up the way you're talking is free swinging. And Eric, it's the same thing I do with the ling cod up at Hideaway.
Right.
Except with, I don't know, I got him from Rick. A treble hook 4X made for bluefin fishing.
There you go.
But and you like to, and again, Cory, you were saying you might have trouble, with the visual. Well, you took care of that. You've got a video tutorial of how you like to rig that up.
Exactly.
And again, where would you find that?
On my YouTube page, Eric Landesfine. Just it's not the BD Outdoors one, but it's just the Eric_Landesfine. It's a unique enough name. If you put in ERIK_, it'll LAN, it'll probably come up.
The one of the reasons I asked you that question is I kind of knew what your answer would be, and that don't be afraid. I mean, if you're fishing for a full-size fish, but you're fishing in the bay, don't think you need to fish a teeny little finesse thing. I mean, a 2-pound sand bass will have no problem grabbing an
13-inch
slug. Yeah,
related.
exactly.
Yeah. And one other thing I'm going to add with sand bass, I learned this from fishing a lot of sand bass tournaments. If you want to catch a big fish for the star tournament or whatever, once you hook that sand bass and you got him hooked up, back your drag off and just wind him up slowly. If you do that, he's not going to roll around. They'll roll around and rip their lips off, and you lose a lot of them. So that's something we learned fishing tournaments, is that once you got, 5 or 6 cranks in that bass.
Like, the hook's in him now.
Yeah, so you basically back your drag off until your rod's barely bent. You just wind them up slowly. They don't twist. They don't come off.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that. I would have had no
I
thought
won't
of
do
that.
it fun fishing, but if it's a tournament or I'm trying to catch a competitive
it really
fish,
means
that's the way you do
something
it.
that fish gets in the tank or not.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
incredible.
That's great info.
You know what? Another sideways story to this whole thing is that 8-inch slug that's killer for calico fishing and made for that whole thing. Yeah. I actually made for fish in the bay.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard me talk about it.
Its original intent was
its original thing was leadhead fishing, trying to figure out how, 5-inch slug, I'm catching all these cool halibut. How do I upgrade that and keep the spotted bay bass from climbing on? Yeah. Was an 8-inch slug. And dude, the spotties climb all over.
I was just going to ask. Well, I think your intention was to keep the spotties off of it. How many spotties choke down that 8-inch slug? No problem.
A lot of them. Actually, it's Mission Bay. It's a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
Now, I've always heard you say you like to fish as little lead head as possible when it comes to that, just to keep keep that falling, find its own path action as you can. What's the right size on that?
I mean, fishing 15 feet of water, Mission Bay, half ounce.
I wouldn't really let it next. Your hook gets too small.
50 feet of water, 3/4.
3/4
1
ounce. If
ounce.
I'm fishing if I'm fishing rockfish with, I'll fish an ounce.
Hey, we're going to have more of that when we return. If you're listening to 97.3 The Fan, please tune into the app or YouTube and Facebook Live. We're going to be right back. Eric Landesfine.
Fine.
This is Pete Gray to tell you about my fishing buddy Dan Hume and his amazing Hume termite. As you know, Southern California is infested with termites. It's a constant battle for anyone who owns a home, and that's where Hume termite come in. They're strictly termite experts. They start with a thorough inspection to find out why you have termites in the first place, then recommend sustainable treatment options that work. Hume termite has been controlling my termites for years, and I have recommended them to numerous friends. Did you know 99% of termite companies are commission-based? Not Hume termite. They're all salaried employees, and with a thorough inspection, they'll help you solve your termite problems, not sell you something you don't need. Let Dan and his crew earn your business through customer service and trust. It's swarming season, and now is the time to call Hume Termite at 760-598-2201. They'll come out and give you honest answers to solve your termite issues. Check HumeTermite.com. When you're offshore fishing, the makes all the difference, and that includes Fujinon stabilized binoculars from Baker Marine. Baker Marine has been selling binoculars for decades, and more importantly, they service all brands right at their San Diego Shelter Island location. Need the best? The Fujinon Staboscope is the professional's choice. Looking for top-tier stabilization at a great price? The Fujinon TechnoStabi TSX 1440 delivers rock-steady vision even in rough waters. Perfect for serious anglers. Baker Marine is the largest Fujinon retailer on the West Coast, and when you buy from them, they will be there when your binoculars need service. Plus, they'll give you a great price on all their in-stock Fujinon binoculars. Stop by their store on Shelter Island in San Diego and test a pair of Fujinon binoculars and see which one is right for you. The fishing season is here, and you know you need a pair of stabilized binoculars. So get them from the experts at Baker Marine. Learn more at bakermarine.com.
For local or long-range fishing, we have you covered. Hi, this is Doug Kern from Fisherman's Landing Tackle, the saltwater tackle professionals. Being a part of the San Diego Sport Fishing Landing gives us a distinct advantage when it comes to getting you on the latest and hottest tackle for your trip. Our expert staff knows exactly what you need for your long-range or local trip, and we will not sell you something you don't need. We carry a huge inventory of the right tackle. So visit us at Fisherman's Landing Tackle at Fisherman's Landing in San Diego. The name that stands out among anglers is Fisherman's Landing, your top choice in local and long-range fishing. Our hardworking crew will make your fishing experience one to remember. We offer the finest open party trips from 1 to 3 days, the best charter boats available, and of course, our world-renowned long-range fleet is second to none. All our open party trips can be easily booked online at fishermanslanding.com. Or give us a call. I'll see you at Fisherman's Landing in San Diego.
Do you know why 1 million customers visited Summit Gasoline last year at the San Diego Sports Arena? Because they give you the lowest price on fuel, great service, and easy access, even for trucks and trailers at their 24 pumps. Summit is known for the best price on ice, too. Almost half the cost of any other vendor. 25 pounds for just $3.99. Martha and her crew love fishermen, and they'll prove it by giving you 100 pounds free with a 35-gallon fill-up. Summit offers over 40 snacks and drinks to choose from for only 89 cents, and even a line of hand creams and lip balms for 89 cents, too. Summit now proudly offers locally made burritos and sandwiches, made fresh daily and ready to go wherever the current takes you. Summit just upgraded their car wash, and for a limited time, get a deluxe car wash for only $6. Grab the wife's car, grab a cheap sandwich, and make up for the day on the water. Summit Gasoline. Lowest prices, friendliest staff.
Time for more of Southern California's sports fishing voice. Let's talk hookup. Get ready for more of the best fishing information and the hottest tips on improving your angling skills. Let's Talk Hookup is sponsored in part by Ford, the official truck of Let's Talk Hookup. Shimano Rods and Reels. Fish with the best. Shimano. And now, Southern California's sports fishing voice, the hosts of Let's Talk Hookup, Pete Gray, Rock Cod Rick Maxa, and Cory Sanden.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Let's Talk Hookup coming your way here. Again, signing off from that 97.3 The Fan. A big thanks to Kyle for keeping us rolling. But we're pumped, man. We got another hour coming your way here live, Facebook and YouTube live, as well as on that Let's Talk Hookup app. And what a great hour this has been. Having a great time. Cory and I hanging out with you with Eric Landesfine, talking all kinds of great fishing, inshore fishing, offshore fishing, sport boats, and more. As you heard at the beginning of the show, Pete Gray is out of the studio right now. He's out in Montana keeping the trout honest, but we're having a great time hanging out and talking fishing with you. And, man, what a great time this has been, and what a killer gift Eric has brought our listeners today, Cory?
I know, right? A pin Fathom 300 low-profile reel. It's super cool. It's what he uses even offshore, right?
It's got to be a bread and butter rig for you guys.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that going to one lucky caller from the first hour, and we'll take the accumulation of texters and we'll flip a coin. We'll have him flip a prize coin right here, and it's going to one lucky caller texter. Pretty cool. Thank you for bringing that, Eric.
You're welcome.
Just super stoked. I mean, Eric is so knowledgeable on really everything. I mean, inshore, offshore, and just stoked to have you in studio.
Thank you.
Yeah, gonna be a fun one for sure. Well, the first hour flown by, but lots of great text already standing by. I wanted to start it off with this one. It was from Darren, who's checking in from Menifee. Says, hey, happy summer to everybody. Rick, Cory, and Eric. Bass Bite has been epic with the Chovy around. Eric, can you tell us what your favorite plastic to throw? Does it change based on the bait available, i.e. do you change things when there's grunion on the beach or Chovy offshore, etc.? Also, Cory, your new grunion colored slug is spot on and it works. Love it.
Nice. Yeah, I do change presentations based on the bait that's around, especially, fishing kelp beds and things like that. This year, there's been a lot of, and last year as well, there's been a lot of what I call rice, which is the very juvenile anchovies, which might be a half an inch long. Those really put a damper on the bass fishing, but if the bass to rice ratio is skewed in favor of the rice, you're going to have tough fishing. But if a lot of bass biting, they'll get that stuff schooled up, and you throw a 5-inch Viejo swim bait in there, and it's going to be a bite. And last season we had the same issue at Palos Verdes, where I fish a lot, and we switched from our normal 7-inch baits to our 5-inch baits, and we had, I think we had 3 fish over 9 in 3 days up there.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thanks to Cory's magic baits. But
dude, 3 fish over 9 pounds,
unbelievable.
Is no joke.
In 3 trips, it's just crazy. But that's the bait was acting a certain way, the bass were setting up in a certain way in the kelp, but it wasn't the same spot every day. They were miles apart. But once you can recognize that condition, you can go and repeat it. And I could spend the next 14 hours explaining that conditioning. It would probably still not get it across. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, and even knowing that though, Eric, even knowing what the clues are and how to line up the dots, it's difficult to connect that like the next year, the next season.
I mean, we'll go 5 years without catching a 9-pound fish and then have shots like that. But talking about out, with sandbass and stuff, I fished sandbass on the spawning area there at Night Beach last week, and we didn't throw. And it's been that way all summer here. The swim bait is not necessarily the best bait out there. We were throwing crankbaits on those spawning sandbass. I fish a Berkeley Dredger 17.5, which runs about 15 feet, or I'll throw a Lucky Craft Pointer 100 deep diver, which runs about 8 to 10 feet. And even in that deeper water, those fish are feeding on the anchovies that are on the surface, so you don't need to fish the bottom. And we've had a lot of situations this year with the anchovies around where even at the Newport Pipe, Santa River Pipe, there'll be bass boiling when you pull up, and you just drive around chasing boiling bass and 50, 60 feet of water and just throw small hard baits at them. It's definitely the best way to do it. And with any hard bait, you throw a crankbait or a rip bait or a Lucky Craft, you're not going to want to do a steady retrieve. These fish want to stop and go. So cast the bait out as far as you can. Burn it down 3 or 4 turns to handle, and then pause and take 2 or 3 quick winds, pause. The length of the pause varies day to day, but 90% of your bites will be on that pause. It might be a 1 second pause. It might be a 10-second pause. Figure it out. They'll tell you. And once you realize what they're doing, just keep doing that.
What is it condition-wise or fish-wise? What is it that clicks in your mind when you decide to pick up a hard bait versus pick up a Viejo? Both of them catch a sandbass just fine. That fish is there. The bait's present. Why in Eric's mind, do you pick up one versus the other?
I basically, if there's fish that are willing to bite a hard bait, it's much funner fishery because you're not sinking the bait out. You're not going through the whole water column. You're making 3 casts a minute versus 1 cast every 3 minutes. And you have a much better chance of catching more fish that way. And you can also trick fish into biting. So if you wind a swim bait through an area, they don't bite on the sink or a slug. They're either going to bite or they're not going to bite. The slug's more of a reaction bait, but it's better when the fish are deeper. But with the hard baits, you can create something that's happening with that bait that will draw these fish in. The reason that the pause works is because these fish will hear on their lateral lines the movement of that bait. They'll clue in on it. They'll look at it. If you wind it straight, they're just going to follow it all the way back to the boat. But what happens when you pause it, these fish are hot. They're chasing behind it. It stops. They run into it. And there's been some days when they're on the small anchovy where they just headbutt it. It's like they're not even opening their mouth all day. Really? And you'll have 50 bites for 10 hooked fish. That's how it was a couple of weeks ago down there. So, you have to do a more erratic presentation or things like that. But bait fish colored crankbaits or small hard baits, the really good option.
That's so much fun. I mean, that reactionary bite. I mean, dude, El Salto style, right? Totally. I mean, and catching big sand bass and
and the one thing I'm going to add on to that is, if you're fishing the smaller hard baits like a Lucky Craft 100 size or 120 size, fish fluorocarbon line. Those that if you fish them on Spectra, a lot of times you'll rip those fish off the second you hook them because there's no give. And that little bit of sponginess to the fluorocarbon. I don't like mono. It floats. Fluorocarbon sinks. It fishes more like braid. And you'll definitely have a much better hook to land ratio on that. With the crankbaits or the bigger hard baits, you can fish braid no problem.
Is it akin to freshwater fishing where for your hard baits, you like a rod that's a little more parabolic and a little slower to keep hooks in them? Or do you not worry as much about it? You fish them the same rod you fish?
Everything I fish is parabolic and soft. We fish basically for all hard baits we fish 9 or 10 foot crankbait rods that are custom built rain shadow rods. But that softer tip, it really keeps the fish on.
Okay. That's cool.
Such an important key ingredient. I actually have a good text here, and it's I actually want to know the answer to this one. Good morning, guys. Hey, Eric, what's the biggest calico you've pulled off the Long Beach breakwall? And please tell us how you got them and what were the conditions? And that comes from Rich in Long Beach.
Well, that's actually kind of a funny story. I was fishing a Santa Monica Bay-based bass tournament with Mark Higashi from Performance Tackle. This is in the early 90s. And a daytime event, we went down to fish the breakwall. That's when they still allowed something like you could use bait if you wanted to in these tournaments. And there had been a bite on sardines at the breakwall, so I had I think a 6-inch big hammer was the biggest swim bait they readily available back then. The old Style 9 shad head with mono back in those days.
Yeah.
I got a few nice bass on it. Yeah, I think my biggest fish casting to the wall was like 7 pounds that morning. And I had a deep, loose line on the reel. You know, the mono kind of springs off, and you don't want to sink your bait out when you're casting the wall. So I went to the stern and just drew a long clearing cast off the back of the boat. Got the loose line off, was burning back to the boat. And about 10 feet from the boat, I got a 9 3/4 Calico.
Wow.
We've seen bigger fish there. We've seen, Matt and I had one that was probably, I would say 11 to 13 pounds come up and grab the boot of the swim bait when there was like a 2-pound fish hooked on it. And the fish was just totally, it was like a sandbass floating in a bait tank. It was on its back, rolling around. It was like 10 feet from the boat, but it's like, what do we do? You know, we couldn't net it. It was too far away, but that was probably the biggest bass I've seen locally.
Incredible. The Long Beach breakwall, the federal breakwater up there is so unique. Like we have jetties and we have, breakwaters up and down the coast, but they don't compare. That fishery up there is amazing.
Much deeper water. It's a much bigger piece of structure. And like any other piece of what you call superstructure, which is something that's bigger than one spot, is those fish live on there and they could be 2 miles away from where they were biting the day before. And when you're fishing the breakwall, especially during the day, the number one sign is cormorants in the water near the breakwall. Or, if there's a bunch of seagulls and pelicans sitting on a certain section of rock, there's probably bait fish around there because they're not going too far.
And it's tough to break down. It's 7 miles of breakwater, 7 miles. And the boulders are like a VW bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
well, also, so 7 miles of breakwall on 2 sides.
Right.
We had years, especially after the 2015 El Nino, when there was some holes knocked in that breakwall, that every big bass was living on the inside.
Really?
Yeah. We were, we'd go out in January and have 50, 60 fish on crankbaits. I think our biggest one we got inside was like 8 pounds.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's an amazing fishery. I mean, there's a whole cult following.
I spent the first 3 years of a boat ownership fishing nothing but
Just doing that.
Yeah.
You talked about that round of big fish you guys had at Palo Verde too. What is it about that stretch of coastline that seems to have so many big ones?
I'm not exactly sure, but it doesn't get a lot of sport boat pressures. There's not many fish taken from there. A lot of private boaters fish it, but 90% of the guys, no offense to them, don't know what they're doing. And
well, they do if they're watching your videos.
I'm not knocking anybody, but it doesn't get a lot of good angling pressure, and so there's not a lot of bass per acre up there. You go to La Jolla, and there's probably 50 times as many bass in an acre of kelp as there is, or Point Loma as there is there. But the fish do get older, and they're there long. A 9-pound bass is 30 years old.
Sure.
And what happened 2 years ago or 3 years ago, all the kelp died off of BB. There was not a strap, hardly any kelp anywhere. And the biggest bass used to be at Point Furman, the lower end of that thing. And we've had days where we've had 10 bass over 6 pounds up to 10 pounds.
Wow.
Crazy. In a quarter-mile stretch of thing. But when all that kelp died off, those bass moved away from Point Furman and spread up the coast because they like that rock structure. Then bring in the landslides at Rolling Hills at Palos Verdes. It was on the news, all the houses they had, the red tag and all the other things. Bass don't like ground movement. So basically, if there's an earthquake, don't go calico bass fishing anyway. So those fish that were spanning from Point Furman to basically where the Trump National Golf Course is, all that area was having land movement, so they all left. And all that fish slid up around the corner to Rocky Point. And so we were seeing big bass that would normally be in areas where we could not reach them out in the kelp feeding with the smaller bass. And I think that's why those bigger bass were biting last year. I'm hoping to repeat that this year, but it's just been so unstable up there. We're having 5 or 6 degree temperature swings overnight.
Crazy.
I talked to Brandon Hayward the other day, and he was saying that where he's fishing sea bass, it went from 65 degrees to 57 overnight.
That's crazy, right? I mean, as much as we know, and I relate it to you, I mean, as much as you know about the ocean and what the kelp and all that stuff, it's still a mystery. Like every
curveball, no matter how much you think you got.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, I will say that over the last 2 years, I've probably spent about 100 days a year fishing Palos Verdes, and it's been very rare. Even if I go out 2 days in a row, it's very rare that the conditions are the same as the bass right in the same place.
But that's really, for myself, and I'm sure yourself, that's what makes it fun.
It's challenging.
is trying to figure it out. It's
Yeah.
just a chess game every time.
If it was wide open every time you go out, I wouldn't go.
Right?
I'd give
That's why I rarely go to Clemente anymore.
I'd give it a shot.
That's why I go to El Salto.
There you go.
It's a challenge every time.
Right.
Well, can you like as you pull the boat out of gear? Is it the type of thing where you can identify the condition right away of knowing that you're going to have a good day or a not day? Like, I mean, or is it a lot more subset minor things that
I can
make
tell you
make
that
for the right day?
I can definitely know when it's not the day.
Yeah, I got you.
So we'll
when it's not right.
We'll launch at 6. We fish a lot in the afternoon, but if we do a morning trip and I get to Point Furman and it's been upwelling all night, so that Furman Canyon's right there. When we have these hot summer days and stuff, you get a lot of upwelling. The counter current that's on our coast causes that to upwell. If I get to Furman, it's 3 degrees colder than it is in the harbor, and I run to Trump, which is kind of the right before the MPA. It's the last area you can fish before the Point Vincenti closure that has kelp. If I get to there and I have not stopped the boat yet, most of the time I'll just bend it to the west end of Cat and go fish Calicos there because I know that around the corner it's gonna be no better.
That's it.
How far of a run is that for you to Cat from there?
Oh, it's less than 20 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a short run.
Pretty
cool.
sweet,
man. That's great, man. Awesome info. Hey, I had a fun text. Says, good morning, guys. Happy Saturday to Eric. I love your reports. You do an outstanding job covering all of Southern California fishing. Questions: what boat are you currently running, and what's your favorite way to target calico bass? Also, I'd like to throw in, I took my 5-year-old daughter out on Thursday to catch some of those sand bass, and she was able to rope a couple of her own. A 1.5 ounce lead head on an MC Viejo and a 3/4 ounce lead head on an MC Slug were getting chewed better than the Chovies. And that was all from Rory and Lakeside.
That's awesome.
That sounds like a lot of fun right there, man.
Yeah. So that in my boat is a Robolo 226 Cayman day boat. It's 22 foot 6 inches, obviously. And I'm not saying because I'm affiliated with them in any way, other than them give me a good deal on the boat because it's the first one on the West Coast. It's probably the most stable riding bay boat, and
it's got a deeper V in it, so it's like worthy of offshore.
Yeah. It's I've been in tournament starts where there's much bigger boats. The 24 foot Cayman also, and big Rangers and stuff like that. We had a tournament at Ventura where it was quite rough on the way out, as that channel could be, and we beat the second boat to the island by 25 minutes.
Wow.
That just shows you the stability. And, it's also stable while you're fishing on it and stuff like that. The only drawback is they fix that now, but the older models only have a 50-gallon fuel tank or 60-gallon fuel tank. I'm sorry. So if you like to race around, you got to be careful on how far you go.
And what does she have for power?
200 Yamaha.
Cool.
They also come with a 250. I don't really think the extra speed is, I can go 36 knots.
Yeah.
Which is plenty fast for me, but you're burning 19 gallons an hour at that point. So 3 hours you're empty. But I've taken it, to the Butterfly out of Newport and just cruise. If you keep it at 26 knots, you get over 3 miles a gallon, 3.5. But if you're wide open, you get like 1.9 or whatever, and it's
she goes fast.
Yeah.
Now, what about the second part of Rory's question? You do a lot of calico bass fishing, and it seems to be a specialty of yours. You've kind of got it wired on catching them a lot of different ways. All things the same, and you could catch them on any arrow on the quiver. What's your favorite way to catch calico bass?
The first bait I pick up when I go calico bass fishing, and I normally leave it in my hand if I'm fishing the kelp. I normally leave it in my hand. It's a 7-inch MC weedless.
Okay.
Yeah, that thing is. Even if they're not biting it, they will show you if there's biting bass there, and I might have to make an adjustment down to something smaller, but that will let you know if there's biting bass in the area.
It's my favorite thing because it is a fantastic lure to draw a big bite from a big calico bass. But at the same time, a guy like me that likes action, a 13-incher will eat it no problem.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about that lure is you're going to have a big profile. You put a big hook into something. You can cast it anywhere. I know Cory is not that way, but I do. You can bomb a long cast if you want. You can rip it 10 feet from the side of the boat. You can sure do a lot of things with that lure. And you get great longevity with that screw lock. Like everything about those things are great.
And my second favorite as of late is Cory's 7-inch slug on a keel hook. Can you tell me the hook that's Gamakatsu?
It's the there's so many different slugs and stuff, right? So there's like the split
6-inch.
Well, there's a split tail version that's like 7-inch, and there's the
6-inch.
It's like 6.5 inch.
Okay,
It's
there
almost
you go.
7-inch.
Yeah, almost.
Is the more cigar shape.
Yes.
So it's what we talk about. It's the 5-inch weedless on a 7-aught Gamakatsu, and the same hook will fit that 6.5-inch slug.
Yeah, and the beauty of that bait, Cory's made that bait for fishing the surf and stuff, and we've kind of taken that and taken it to a different level. And if you guys are old enough to remember fishing the 8-inch slug on the hook, it fishes just like that on top of the kelp, except you can fish it much faster.
Right.
And you can throw it over anything. And I burned that bait back. I fished it on a 300 size reel full of 30 pound on a very light rod. And if you want to stay in the water maybe 50% of the time, the rest of the time it's popping out.
God, that sounds like so much
And those
fun.
bass will just cartwheel out of the water from it.
it.
And they don't bite it that well for us in the cooler water times. I prefer the 7-inch weedless. But that thing, if those bass are feeding on the surface, that is the funnest bait there is.
There's nothing more fun than Calico's missing, jumping and going crazy, and just
these 3 try to eat it and miss, but
Yeah.
the one you didn't see comes
the
burning out.
5-pounder and hailed it.
Totally.
Well, what's funny, the first time I was really starting to fish that bait last year, the year before, I went to San Clemente Island with Jimmy Decker, and he'd never seen it. So I'm like, hey, check this out. And I cast in the kelp, and I'm skipping on the surface. I had like a 25-pound yellow comfort, eat it. And I just stopped winding, and it let it go. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I never would have caught that fish.
Wow.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And so the whole thing with that too, I want to mention is there's a lot of things that are weedless, but they have a horrible hookup ratio.
Right.
You're sure right
The
about that.
hookup ratios with that
Yeah.
setup is as equal to the weedless.
And either they'll blow it out of the water or it'll just suddenly be gone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's I'd say it's a higher hookup ratio than weedless.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And like the big, you talked about you fish it like the big slugs. Is it the same way that you impart virtually all the action via your reel handle? Like your handle is what's making that thing.
So I'm
move
holding
more
that
than
rod
the
at a 45-degree angle to keep all the line out of the
Mhm.
water. I'm just doing quick stop and go. Here I am on radio showing hand signals again. I always do.
Oh,
this.
they can see us on YouTube.
Yeah, okay, there we go. You impart that action, and you want the bait to stay on the surface. One of the things that happens after you catch a few fish on it, the hook will tend to pop up, and then it becomes a submarine. So if that happens, just push the hook back down into place, and you go back to doing your thing.
That's cool, man.
All right.
Okay. How
I'm
much
there.
does that make you want to go do that
Oh,
right this second?
like right now?
I mean, right this second, I'm down. I'm ready.
I love it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
I
fun.
mean, that's definitely good stuff.
You got a great text standing by?
I do. There's so many good ones coming through, and thank you for sending them. And this one, great to hear, Eric. We have struggled with establishing a good game plan and then using our electronics to find tuna. It'd be great to hear Eric's view on the best way to develop a plan for a day on the water. Any resources to help learn how to use our electronics more effectively? And this comes from DJ in San Diego.
Good question.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I do a lot of tuna fishing where there's nobody else. I won't go to where the fish are biting, the boats are. I just can't stand that. So the first thing and the most important thing when you leave the harbor is set your fish finder to 200 to 250 feet. And what will happen, all these modern fish finders, they'll just default up to your prop wash turbulence of 0 feet when you're running. And if you have a through-hole transducer, you're better off. If you have a puck on the back of your boat, that's fine. But basically, I would pick some local banks that are in somewhat of a line and just run bank to bank. And while you're running, keep, every minute, look down at your fish finder and check your water temperature and look for any change more than a half of a degree. And if you have a more than a half a degree change, suddenly it goes from, 71 to 71.5, stop the boat for a minute, get your stabilized binoculars and scan around in the circle. See if you're near any banks. If you are, go towards that bank. Watch your fish finder for.
That was a weird one.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
I know.
Can't say we've had that one before.
Yeah, you watch for anything on your fish finder. That might be bait balls. That might be tuna schools. If you see shearwaters, which are those gray things that look like pigeons sitting on the water, drive across them, turn and drive right over them, and they're going to take off before you get there. And if they circle around and fly right back to where they were sitting before and land again, they're probably sitting on tuna or bait. Otherwise, they're just resting. So if they circle right back, then I would drive around that area with my fish finder looking in. A lot of times those schools will be down 100, 200 feet, but on the late morning or early afternoon slack tide, those fish will come to the surface and feed.
The ocean could look completely different in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Clemente in the morning, saw a couple of rafts of shearwaters on my way there, kind of made a mental note on where they were, fish bass for 3 or 4 hours, go home, and now it's just foamers and bluefin.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And the shearwater is one of those overlooked birds. It's kind of like a offshore guy would call a seagull or something.
Yeah.
But
So I'm gonna rank birds here for you guys. It's
Yeah.
important if you fish offshore.
it really is.
Your number one is small terns, not big terns, small terns. And small terns that are chirping or small terns that are communicating and active. That is telling you that there's something happening. These birds are working.
I think that's a least turn.
Is it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
The big terns suck. They're good in
Really?
the kelp.
Come on.
They're good in the kelp. But other than that, next up is the shearwater.
Yeah.
That is always going to be something you're going to look for. Where there's bait, there's shearwaters. The third would be the brown seagulls, which I don't know if they're different
I don't know their name.
subspecies.
Yeah.
White seagulls are just as happy eating fries in McDonald's parking lot as they are anything else. And if you ever pull up on a bird school, no matter how big it is, if it's what Booger from the San Diego calls a dirty bird school, which is pelicans, shearwaters, all those stuff, just keep driving. So there you go. Shearwaters and terns.
And
small
if
terns.
you ever want to screw up your buddy that's tailing you, throw over a bag of popcorn.
There you
off
go.
to the
There you go.
side. Yeah.
And hey, if you're fishing in the bay, look for the western green. If they're diving, there's spotted
Really?
bay bass under them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
I can make no comment on the popcorn bag.
Right?
I can neither confirm nor deny anything. Don't know. Don't even know what you're referring to. Hey, I will say we heard that ringing tone. Something up with the hotline. I'm sure it's something that Pete would have already figured out and fixed. But your number two beast, AAA third string in here on this side. Haven't been able to get it. So unfortunately, haven't been able to connect with both Rosie or Mark Wish. Both of them were trying to call in and not quite able to. That report obviously is sponsored by Fisherman's Processing in San Diego, where you get that premier processing experience. Check out the easier online system to book your processing orders for your long-range trip. With more team members, Fisherman's Processing stays far ahead of the rest. More same-day capacity and the finest customer service. You can stop by their location in Old Town on Taylor Street or check fishermansprocessing.com and be sure you make that reservation today. Certainly going to work on the phones, and hopefully we get that rectified. And if so, we'll certainly get them in there. And if not, we'll try to get them on tomorrow, because there's some very good fishing to be had. Fun watching all the social media updates from Rosie at Cedro Sport Fishing and seeing all that great yellowtail and a
Incredible.
huge influx of sea bass. Man, there was good sea bass fishing
Right.
for those guys this week. And then obviously our fishdope.com report with Mark. Lots of great fish going on. But yeah, lots of it. We're going to try and get it rectified, but some pretty good fishing to be had.
You know what amazes me is, okay, you look at our Channel Islands and our coastal sea bass, and it's like really good right now, right?
Right.
And you think it's good all the way down to Cedros, Central Baja.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, that's a huge spread of fish.
Yeah.
I mean, is it the same in San Quintin and along that coast?
Yeah, they get them down there as well. And speaking of that, I mentioned Brandon Hayward earlier. He's been getting 45 to 65 pound bluefin on the beach for the last month on squid beds that are around. And
Sea bass.
Yeah.
Sea bass.
And
Incredible.
it's just these giants. He says it's the best fishing he's had since 2012 for sea bass on the beach. And
Amazing.
nobody's doing it because
Yeah.
everybody's catching bluefin and going to the islands and loading up and everything else. So
And that's one of the great things about right now is everybody spread out. That bass fishing is down here or up there, and the sea bass fishing for him on the coast is over here. And there's tuna local, there's tuna far, there's tuna up or down. It's really good.
or how about the sea bass in Channel Islands?
Right.
I mean, it's been a killer year. They struggled last year, but this year's been on fire.
There's probably the most white sea bass in Point Loma that I can remember in years. And I mean, certainly since the big squid era time. I mean, there's a lot of short to just legal sea bass, but then there's big resident fishing with that too. It's good.
incredible.
We're in a really healthy spot right now.
Dude, when I say that we're living the good old days,
Yeah.
it's happening right now.
Unless you fish PV.
Is
What's
it
funny?
that tough?
Maybe a month ago now, we were fishing calicos. There were bird schools, and the calicos were up boiling. We'd pull into the kelp and started seeing some bigger boils, and it was 25 to 40 pound sea bass eating mackerel right there with the calicos. They wouldn't bite anything that we threw, but I had one chase a big hard bait back to the boat. I almost tried to figure eight it to see if I get it to eat it there, but it swam away. It's
incredible.
Kind of cool.
You guys have an awesome fishery. I mean, like, when all's said and done, what's Eric's favorite way? I mean, favorite fishery? And
Yeah, that Palos Verdes fishery is hard to beat. And where I live, I can pull out of my driveway and be fishing at the lower end of PB in about 40 minutes.
That's cool.
That's
Which
incredible.
is really nice. That's one of the reasons I bought my house where I bought it and everything else, to have access to that.
Long Beach, man. That's right where I grew up, not far from you.
Yep.
That's cool. All right. Hey, when we come back, we got a little more Let's Talk Hookup coming your way. Really good stuff going on, Cory. And again, if somebody wants to join us, it's only through that Let's Talk Hookup app.
And not only that, the Let's Talk Hookup app, send us a message for Eric or a question. We're giving away a Pin Fathom 300 size bass fishing reel. Also catches bluefin. We're going to be right back. You're listening to Let's Talk Hookup with Eric Landesfine. We'll be right back on the Let's Talk Hookup app and YouTube and Facebook Live.
Haida Gwaii Safaris, formerly Queen Charlotte Safaris, invites you to experience the magic of Haida Gwaii Islands, British Columbia, Canada. Hi, I'm Valerie Hoprich. 25 years ago, I fell in love with these incredible islands, the breathtaking scenery, the warm community, and the truly phenomenal fishing. That passion inspired me to open my own fishing lodge, just steps from the Sandspit Harbor at Haida Gwaii Safaris. You will be fishing in pristine, pressured waters for Chinook, king salmon, halibut, lingcod, and much more. Plus, be surrounded by untouched beauty. We pride ourselves on creating an unforgettable venture that turns first-time guests into lifetime friends. You will come for the fishing, and you will come back for the memories. We are booking now. Call us at 1-877-815-2892 or visit our website, qcsafaris.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. Haida Gwaii Safaris, where adventure and friendship meet.
Boy, it's time to talk about some great gear from Shimano. And man, very exciting times coming up this week with the ICAST show coming over in Orlando. And, for one of the first times ever, Shimano's kind of gave a little heads up. Nothing specific yet via their social media, but brand new Corrado being introduced at ICAST this year. Some new spinning reels get debuted this year, but the biggest thing for us is the newest generation of Calico, the Calico A. We saw the new 12 and 16, and then the new 20 and 25. This year, there's the new Calico 50, and then a brand new model being offered in the Calico 40. So we will get to know a whole lot more about it as the show goes on, and we'll get a little more info. But very exciting times. It's ICAST. Stay tuned. Brand new stuff coming for Shimano. We'll talk about it here on Let's Talk Hookup. But for more information, check out your local Shimano dealer.
It's employee pricing, and it's happening now at your San Diego County Ford dealers. That's right, employee pricing across a full lineup for trucks and SUVs. A lineup featuring California's #1 truck brand and Ford F-Series, America's all-time best-selling SUV and Ford Explorer, the iconic Ford Bronco, and more. No automaker employs more hourly workers or assembles more vehicles here in America than Ford Motor Company. And that's a commitment your San Diego County Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing to you. It's only for a limited time. Exclusions apply. Hurry to your local San Diego County Ford dealer today.
Hey anglers, AFCO Pro Captain Ben Florentino of Coastal Charters here. As a full-time guide, I'm on the water all year long. It's my livelihood. Having the right clothing is of the utmost importance, staying warm, dry, cool, and comfortable to endure whatever the Pacific wants to throw at me. Thankfully, I'm equipped with AFCO clothing to keep me dialed season after season. Do yourself a favor and check out AFCO's award-winning gear at a dealer near you, or learn more at AFCO.com.
All right, welcome back. Let's Talk Hookup and sharing the studio with Eric Landesfine and just having a good time. And dude, talking bass, talking bluefin, and we're giving away a Pin Fathom 300 reel, man, and one lucky caller or texter.
I'm about as far from the IT guy as it comes. Far from it.
Well, if you're far,
yeah.
I'm like far.
I can cast a surface iron a long way.
Yeah.
I can do
That I can
better
do.
than most of the guys that I stand next to.
Yeah.
Pushing buttons, not my forte, but I think I got it.
Oh, you
I
do?
got it. So
Okay.
with that said, we're going to go live now to the East Cape. We got our man, Chris from the East Cape Smokehouse is on the line with us. What's up, Chris?
Rick, Cory, Eric, buenos dias, guys. How we doing?
Doing great, buddy. Good morning. Glad to have you. And I was very glad to hear your voice coming through. Always like hearing about Smokey's Curing Company in Cantina. And it was pumped to have you on the line, buddy. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Excellent show as usual, but really love listening to Eric, his knowledge, and obviously great fisherman. Anyway, so this week, really, honestly, we've been waiting for that tuna bite to happen. It's been a little bit tough sledding. We're getting some out there. They're about 20, 30 miles out, but the weather hasn't really been cooperating. We've been having some uncharacteristic, really high seas and winds outside that have been affecting things. But really, honestly, still, we had just an excellent week. More blue marlin landed than striped marlin this week. So blue marlin everywhere. And so, guys are, having a lot of fun doing that. But man, again, for Cory, we got rooster fishing that's just going off right now. And I mean, so, shore fishing, guys are catching them on the fly, anywhere between, right here at Lane Arrow, right in front of my house, and over on down to La Ribera. And then in the bay over there, just between Punta Reina and Cabo Pomo again, right there at Las Barracas, lots of big roosters. So, I mean, just a lot. If you want to catch roosters, you can do that all day long.
Man, yeah,
go ahead.
That's incredible.
Yeah, totally.
I ran into a landscaper. His name was Gavin, and he was just down there with his son. Dude, he was showing me pictures of huge rooster fish, like beautiful.
Yeah, man, it's just going off. So like I said, if you got to take the good with the bad, and you can just change gears and go do something else if you're not catching certain things like that. But like, again, for Dorado, I think we only saw maybe one Dorado this week on the dock. So that's really concerning there. But again, so if one thing's not working, you can go do another. You can go catch blue marlin, some tuna, very few wahoo this week. Bait wise, we've got sardinas, ballyhoo, caballitos, the green jacks. Those are working really good for the rooster fish as well. But there's a big Dorado tournament. We got the Dorado shootout coming next week, but there's another big Dorado tournament tomorrow up in La Paz. So we'll be anxiously waiting results from that and seeing what's going on up there. But yeah, I mean, we're hoping we can get some better weather here and get back into the tuna bite and start bringing in the poundage again. And hoping that Dorado bite turns on too.
Well, I bet it's always happening at the cantina, though, right?
You know what, guys? It's always happening there. And you guys know we've been diligently quenching pie holes since 2008 in the bar there in the cantina. But we reached a momentous milestone this past week. Yeah, we quenched our 1 billionth pie hole this past week. So I'm really proud about that.
Congratulations. What an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And some very serious ones down in the Cape.
Yeah, there's a lot of repeats. I mean, my personal pie hole is probably good for a couple hundred G's, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
An awesome time, brother. A fantastic report, and man, we love everything. Sure love going down to Smokies. Sure love all the fantastic service that you do for everybody, keeping us up to date with the Cape. If somebody wants to come join you at the restaurant, quench that pie hole, or going fishing on the nicest boat in the Cape, how do we do that?
You can email me at Baja Smoke Dog 2Gs at Gmail. Call me at 858-231-1358. Get a hold of me at vaquerasportfishing.com, and we'll be happy to take care of everything.
Yeah, fantastic job as always, Chris. Really appreciate you. We'll look forward to talking to you next week.
I'll look forward to it, guys. Take care.
Appreciate that very much, buddy. Well, Rosie had mentioned trying to call in, and definitely just wanted to pass along at least a synopsis of her report for everybody going down to Cedro. She had lots and lots of baits in the water, a mix of sardine and red crab, still plenty of mackerel. Water still a little bit on the cooler side. So there was a lot of slow trolling and yo-yo jig fishing that had been working best. It hadn't been a thing before. Still plenty of surface iron fish to be had, but some of the better big fish, slow trolling and fishing the yo-yos. They had 3 personal bests this week at the lodge, including a 38, a 42, and a 48-pound yellow.
Man.
How cool is that?
That's getting it done.
Unbelievable.
A little cooler water, man. Bring it on, right?
Yeah.
Doing the sea bass too, man. Like
Javier, who's one of the fantastic captains that runs the fleet down there, and the guy I've been lucky enough to fish with a bunch. It was fun. You could tell the sea bass fishing was really good because his mom was at the store on the phone while he was on the water trying to buy everything they could sea bass wise up there, including Cory. They bought it. I hate to say this because I know how long you worked pouring all those baits. Yeah. Every single white fluke
You're kidding me.
For us. No, he snatched every one.
Come on.
They said that has like absolutely been the thing. We had a group of guys, Reggie, who comes down. Their group took some of those down. Had great sea bass fishing with him, and he had his mom hop on the plane, come all the way up there, and just every single one.
What a horrible thing, Reggie.
Yeah. Horrible. Yeah, so pretty cool for those guys going down there. Not a snack up on some of those MC fluke style bait. You know, that split tail slug, whatever you call it.
So
that thing was hitting.
I'll tell you where the origin of that came.
Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, I'll bring more to put in the shop.
All right,
yeah. 2 different colors. How about that? But the origin of that was Jim Decker.
Yeah.
And those days fishing
jerk shad.
The Gulp jerk shad.
The sled head.
On the sled head, yep.
And I just saw a better version of.
And it is a better version.
But I mean, it's got the little bit of a blunt, front.
Yeah.
And it's just made for it.
I'll tell you what, that 7-inch split tail slug on a owner sled head, that was the half ounce is the bigger one.
There's 2 different sizes. They drive me nuts, though.
It's the bigger one of the 2.
Do you like using it?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. If you got a kid that's fishing the kelp with you, we took Matt and I took Eric Noguchi's kids out when they were young. You give them one of those sled heads with that 7-inch split tail slug on there, and it doesn't stay in the kelp, and the bass bite the heck out of it. So it's a great thing for the kids.
But it's one of those things we talked about, the efficiency of weedlessness and the hookup ratio.
Yeah.
They don't match up very well.
Right.
Like it's 100% weedless, but the hookup ratio is like 50%.
If they're biting, it's a little bit higher than that, but yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe you're not that great of a fisherman.
You might just be right.
You need to come out and take some lessons,
dude. I'll stick to bait making, man. It's all good.
We had a fun text come through. It says, "Hey, good morning, guys. Eric, Rick, and Cory. I really like Eric's report on the BD YouTube channel. There's always very informative information. My question for Eric: in your opinion, what's the best time of year for fishing Southern California?" Or excuse me, what was the best year for fishing Southern California that you've experienced in all your years, and why made it so? Looking back in the history books, that's from Mike in San Diego.
Yeah, I would say the best years that we had in Southern California is not, it was a different time back then, but that 1998 El Nino, 97, 98 El Nino was the first time in my lifetime that we had easy access to exotic game fish and yellowtail and everything else all summer long, compared to how, back in the, early 90s, if a half day boat in Long Beach caught 2 yellowtail, it was a big deal. Right. I had a half day trip in 98. I had 38 yellowtail. They weren't big ones, but it was pretty exciting times. After that, probably that 2015 El Nino, when we had the blue marlin in our local waters and things like that, and Wahoo, that was pretty
special.
Cool. Yeah.
That's the one that kicks into my mind too. Like that was just, there was so many things available and at play and different. And, back then Neil and I, fished out of a 19-foot plastic center console and had a day where we were trolling 2 blue marlin jigs and 2 Wahoo jigs down by the corner of the islands, and getting stopped,
Right. That yellowtail bite on the 150 up there in Long Beach that year was it was every single day. And what was great is, as someone who lives near the landing or the launch ramp, I would launch at like 3:00 in the afternoon when all the 3/4 boats and half day boats were going home, and all the skiffs would be wherever those boats finished up. And you could just pull up, find some turns, and have wide open yellowtail service iron fish on 30 pounders.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Insane, right?
We've had some pretty wild times.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I call that good times.
Yeah, I'm in for sure. You got a great text for us,
I
Cory?
do, man. There's so many coming through, Eric. It's awesome having you in
you're very
studio.
popular.
Yeah, you are, man. Watch out. Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Eric, for the fun show. I keep my boat in Alamitos Bay, and I head up to PV a lot, and I don't do very well. Could you share one tip for fishing PV? And it says, thanks. That's John from Whittier.
Yeah. The one tip for PV and everywhere else is you're going to want to find areas that have current running parallel to the beach. And parallel to the beach.
Yeah,
you don't want it going in towards the beach. You don't want it going out to sea. You want it going up or down the coast. And in the morning, they will bite on an uphill current, which means it's running from Point Fermin up to Rocky Point. If you find that later in the day, you're not going to catch much. So you need, if you're past 10 o'clock in the morning, you need downhill, going down the beach. And you're going to fish the leading edges. And there's a lot more leading edges than there are biting bass. So pull up, make 5 or 6 casts. And if you don't see a fish or don't get a bite, go to the next one. And don't discount little saddles of kelp that come out from the main bed, which I consider a secondary point, like a freshwater bass thing. A lot of times those secondary points will be where there are bigger bass. If you catch small fish on the leading edge, look down the kelp bed. If there's a couple stringers sticking out from it, go hit those. That's your bigger bites.
Interesting. That's great
yeah.
info.
Yeah, I was surprised on that too. Growing up and fishing here, it's always, there's always like a piece of into the beach that you want. Down and in, down and in, down and in is like, the primo condition. But you're saying you don't want that into the beach for that.
So the way Palos Verdes lays out and the way the kelp beds are structured there, when it's going down and in, you have about a 10-foot section of kelp, and you're being the thickest kelp. So there's not any way to set up and fish it properly. You might get one fish,
sure,
but it's not going to be something you can make it continue to drift on. And due to the swell direction, the wind, it always blows down the beach in the afternoons. You want to have the wind and the current go in the same direction, and you can fish effectively. And some days you'll pull up on that leading edge, and that leading edge will bite for 300 yards. Other times there'll be fish in the first 20 feet of it, and then no more, or there'll be no fish. So you need to, drifting too long in the kelp, and keep your boat outside of the kelp bed. Don't sit in the kelp that's surface kelp. There'll be kelp down on the outside. Normally drift over that and cast into the edge.
Yeah.
If you get into that thick stuff, you're not going to drift. You're not going to catch much. And don't go longer than you need to, because it's a real-time vampire. It's it's the equivalent of going out and saying, I'm going to go fish for marlin. I'm going to start at the 9 and put the jigs in and drive around at 6 knots. You're not going anywhere. You're going to waste all your fishing time fishing properly, but not in the right spot.
That's good advice, man.
Great advice.
Yeah, dig it very much. Well, that's very fun. Again, if you want to get through, send us a text. It's been incredibly busy this morning. Lots of great texts coming through, and we're going to continue to read them. Plenty of time here on Let's Talk Hookup. Another great one says, good morning, guys. Eric, can you explain the tactics for fishing the slide? My generation of fishing was not really around when that was a thing, and I hear the term used all the time. Thanks, and that's from Sean.
It's funny. I was actually bringing it up earlier, but we went to a commercial break. If you're trolling, be it for albacore, bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna, or whatever, and you're on a sport boat, you should have your fly line set up, or you're set up with a small rubber core sinker ahead of your hook, and you should have that hook in your hand, and you should be standing at the bait well with the bait pre-selected that you're going to grab the second you hear hookup, and you're going to nose hook that bait, and the minute that rod goes off, you're going to walk to the port or starboard side, and you're going to drop that bait over the side and put it in free spool, and keep it in free spool long enough that it gets back to where the jigs are. And then you're going to want to thumb your spool, because you don't want your bait those fish will follow that jig up, and the boat doesn't stop immediately. So let's say the boat slides 100 yards. Those fish are coming with that hooked fish. That's why they talk about when you lose a troll fish, you lose the whole school, because they don't follow that fish anymore. So if you just drop it back the minute that fish is hooked, by the time the boat stops, your bait is going to be 300 feet behind that school. You're not going to get bit. And, normally in that situation, you're going to get bit in the first 30 or 40 seconds. If you don't get bit by the time the boat comes to a stop, wind that bait in immediately. And I would, if you're fly lining, I'd switch to a collar hook bait, or even a butt hook bait on an anchovy. I would say that's like a level 9 expert move, though. So if you're not familiar, you want to cast a bait off, you'll do a lot of that. But
like casting a wet napkin.
Yeah. So if you're fishing the slide, always nose hook your bait, come up through the bottom jaw, out the top of the head for an anchovy or a sardine across the nose there. And once the boat stopped, I would switch to a collar hook or a butt hook bait, underhand lob it out on the up drift current or up current corner. And by the time that bait is fished around to halfway down the stern, you should be winding it in and putting a new one on.
Or maybe even halfway there.
Yeah, halfway across the stern is what I'm saying. I'm not even going to the other corner.
Yeah.
And what will happen a lot of times is that when the boats drift, where they're chumming is on the up drift or up current side of the thing, so that the bait will drift back with the current, and the fish will stick on that corner. So you can just lob baits in that corner. And a lot of these boats drift stern first. So if you've been on a stop for 30 minutes or 20 minutes, grab your bait and run to the bow and pitch it off there, because that's where the chum is.
That's one thing. I mean, we're all sport boat dudes, right? Grew up in it and live it today. That's one thing that I think that the majority of guys
still don't do.
Well, they don't understand the boat drifts stern first.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's something, it doesn't compute and make sense, right?
And if you go to the bow and do that, I would butt hook your bait.
Dude, that was the Pacific Queen, Eddie McEwen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was the thing.
That Pacific Queen is the boat that I learned that on. It was when Frank and Brian, or Sam and Brian first bought the boat back in 90-something.
Right, exactly. But that was the bluefin thing.
That was a perfect description of the slide. And this, my question is, how does that at all change if instead of fishing a chove and a rubber core sinker, if you're fishing a Colt Sniper, a mega bait, an MC swim bait on a lead head, does it change at all? Same idea.
So yeah, just cast it back and let the movement of the boat impart action to that lure, and then once the boat stops, wind in and do a different presentation.
And I thought that was great that you said too, like don't let it wash out to forever, to forever. You're not trying to long soak an anchovy 300 yards behind the boat. Get it through the zone where the fish were at. You don't get your bite, wind it up, start over again.
And no matter where you're fishing, on a local sport boat or a long range trip for big yellowfin tuna, down south, whatever, don't be the guy that's soaking your bait out and you're halfway up the down current side of the boat. Because what happens is your bait is not swimming anymore. It is just dead, and you have a big loop of line out. You're not even in contact with your bait. And yet, years ago, I was on a 10-day trip down at Aleo's. It was one of those trips where the fishing was slow. We sat there for 3 days. This was the Spectre first came out, and these guys would just dump their spool, and there's surface current, and then below that, there's nothing. So their bait is, 50 feet behind the boat. They got 300 yards of line out in a big loop. And every time you wind it up, you got 18 lines on there. And I'm gonna say this. I got frustrated one day, and instead of untangling all the lines, I cut like 4 of them. Because these were the guys the night before the deckhand had served them a big platter of backlash line at dinner time to show them what they were doing. And these two guys wound in. They both were cut off. And they're both like wahoo, and they went and grabbed their wahoo bombs and started casting those. I'm a much nicer guy now. Don't do stuff like that anymore.
That was the old days.
But that's why I fish on the private boat. I can't be around other people.
There you go.
Oh man, so
That's
well
fun.
said.
That's fun.
And I know you very well. You're speaking the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's coming from a friend.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
I love it. Well, hey, this was a good one here. It's from Joey in Menifee. It says, good morning, Rick, Cory, Eric. New to saltwater fishing, and I definitely want to get a new low-profile reel for bass fishing that would possibly be acceptable for yellowtail as well. My question for Eric, what pound braid should I start with? How much of a leader should I fish? And typically, what leader size do you like? Really appreciate all your help. Thanks for all the great info.
If you're fishing a 200 size reel, I'd get 30-pound braid. A 300 size reel, I'd fish 50. I wouldn't fish any heavier than 50. If you're throwing the MC weedless, I'll throw 65 just because it cuts kelp better. But as far as leader goes, I like to keep my leader short enough that it does not go through the rod tip while I'm casting.
Super short.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 feet. If you're going to have your leader long enough that it's going to go through your guides, you should have a leader long enough that you can't cast it off your spool. Same thing with jig guides or whatever else. So it's either short enough not to go through your rod tip or 200 feet long. And that's more of a top shot than a leader.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than having your knot, even at the cleanest of knots, going through your guide.
So that knot hits your guide, your bait stops going, you'll get a spectra backlash, which is probably one of the worst things on the planet. And
they suck. They do.
Yeah.
So what about leader size? I mean, I'm like myself, I'm 40 to 80 pound fluoro.
Yeah.
What do you?
I rarely fish lighter than 30-pound fluorocarbon with whatever I fish. If I'm fishing lures, I'll fish 40-pound. So
that's all good stuff.
Connection make a difference for you, or is it because it's outside of the guides? It doesn't.
It doesn't make a difference. And I'll tell you one thing. In the last 17 years, I've probably tied 5 leaders because I drive the boat. Whoever's fishing with me is to be the leader guy.
So that's
either Jimmy or Matt. Yeah. Jimmy likes the Seville knot, but it's got another name. It's that Chinese finger trap. I don't know if that's allowed to say anymore, but
you're safe here.
Yeah, like a finger cup where the line goes into the hollow.
There's no knot in the mono.
Yeah,
and then Matt ties the Tony Pena knot.
Like he's an FG knot guy.
FG
right?
knot, that's the one.
That's
yeah, and then Matt ties the Tony Pena. And the nice thing about the Tony Pena, if it goes through the guides, mostly the tag end point towards the reel, so it doesn't hang up, but that knot will hang up on the guides. And if you're buying a bass rod for casting artificial lures, you want to find one if it's a production rod that has a minimum guide size of 8.
Right.
A lot of these rods have the smaller eyes, and then you have guides, and then you start having problems casting.
That's great.
It could be a real big issue.
And you're right. Like the tendency for other fisheries is micro guides and smaller and lighter. And yeah, that's a great one there too. Yeah. You want big enough that your connection's going to go through there. All right. Yeah.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. A great one. Hey, another great info or another great question says, I Feel like I'm missing the boat. I do all of my calico bass fishing on a traditional 5-inch lead head and swim bait. If I was wanting to break into the weedless, what would you recommend? Rod and reel size, and what bait should I be looking for first?
Well, you can change. You use what you're using now. Whatever lead head you're using, switch it out to a VMC boxer head. And the reason that head works is because the eye of the lead head is at the very tip of the bait, and it slopes down directly. So when you wind that through kelp, it'll just ride over it for the most part. If you're winding, bait stays upright, you can wind it over stringers.
And when you say eye, you're talking about where you tie your line.
Yeah,
to.
the eyelid or whatever, whatever the.
But it's so confusing because people they look at the weed guard, the weed guard covering the hook, and they think that that's the weedless.
Yeah, well, the hook is not what hangs up 90% of the time. It's the lead head itself.
Right.
So it'll slide over the top of that. And instead of sinking the bait out, burn it on the surface. And if you're having trouble because the bait's rolling around too much, you go to a low profile lure like the MC 5-inch Viejos, which is designed to wind fast. And you can fish that exactly the same as you would a 7-inch weedless or anything else. And I would just use the tackle you have, get comfortable with that, and then you come and see Rick at the shop and say, hey, I want to fish a 7-inch weedless, and he'll set you up with a proper rod and reel for that. And if you want to truly fish the weedless swim bait properly, you're going to want a graphite composite rod, which is graphite butt section, fiberglass tip, and a light rod, a lot lighter than you would think, a lot lighter than the bass rods are on a tip, because that bait, you have to pause and let that fish load on that bait. And if you don't see him bite it, you can't react fast enough to let that fish load. So by holding the rod at the 90-degree angle towards you, or close to a 90, even 45-degree angle, so the direction you're winding the bait, the second you feel that strike, that softer tip will bend towards it and give you time to stop winding until that fish can turn with the bait in its mouth, and then you can set the hook.
And it's the same thing I teach too, right? So by that 90-degree, you keep yourself from setting the hook.
Exactly.
Right.
Like you're forcing yourself to give it the pause.
That's it.
Yeah.
Let him eat it, turn his head. So when you're swinging into the fish that's pointed away from you, so the hook drives into the right spot.
It's the easiest thing to comprehend and teach and be able to convey. It's the most difficult thing, even for myself.
Oh, I constantly jerk the bait out of their mouth.
Everybody gets
That's
excited
the fun of it.
and gets buck fever.
Yeah.
You're just remembering to position yourself in a way that you kind of can't.
If I didn't, why am I fishing?
Right.
So the advantage if you're in the bow of your boat while you're drifting, don't cast far. Matt Koch, my boat partner, he's probably the best weedless swim bait fisherman for calico bass.
Dude, he's a stud
on the coast. He's like a lawn sprinkler. And I've had guys that they'll get up there in the bow next to him. After 10 minutes, you'll catch 5 or 6 fish. And they're like, I can't even get a cast in because he's hitting every stringer. And he's doing underhand lobs. He's not casting more than 20 feet away from the boat. And he's watching that bait the entire way. So every bite that he gets, he sees it coming. He pauses. He feeds them the bait. I'm fishing from the console, so I have to make longer casts. It doesn't really work out that way. So I get a lot of blind strikes, and that pause and that softer rod helps to get that hook.
Oh, man, such good stuff, Eric. Hey,
we're
going
talk
to
about that for about the next hour, right?
Dude, we got a whole nother show on that one. Look forward to having you back. But hey, we're going to be right back on Let's Talk Hookup. We're going to find out who's won this Pin Fathom 300 when we return on the Let's Talk Hookup app, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
Anyone that's been to the East Cape knows Smokey's Curing Company Cantina, the best food and drink in Los Barriles, and a fun place to hang out and watch your favorite sporting event. If you're lucky, you probably had Smokey's process your fish to take home. Their quality and service is top-notch. You'll see me at Smokey's Cantina hanging out with the owner, Chris, and my buddies when fishing in the East Cape. And we always send our fish to be processed at Smokey's, too. Now Chris has added one of the finest boats in the East Cape available for you to charter for a day or more of fishing. Vaquera. It's an immaculate 35 Cabo with a seakeeper and Captain Diego Romero, one of Baja's best. If you're looking for a great charter boat when fishing at Palmas, Playa, or other resorts, Vaquera, booked at BajaSmokies.com, should be your choice. So when you're headed to the East Cape, be sure to stop by Smokey's Curing Company Cantina. Send your fish to be processed there and fish aboard the 35 Cabo Vaquera. Check BajaSmokies.com for more details.
A top fleet and superb fishing is what Seaforth Sport Fishing in Mission Bay is all about. With free parking and fully stocked tackle shop, it's no wonder Seaforth Sport Fishing is a favorite among anglers. Come aboard top boats like the Aztec, Cortez, Endeavor, Apollo, Outer Limit, Elgato Dos, Pride, Tribute Pacifica, Pacific Voyager, and the Voyager. Plus, the new Seaforth, Sea-Watch, and San Diego offer the finest half and full day trips available. Seaforth Sport Fishing. For charters or regular open party schedule, check seaforthlanding.com. Run by fishermen for fishermen in Mission Bay.
Hey, this is Rosie with Cedros Sport Fishing. We have always been the leader in fishing trips to Cedros Island. We have set the bar even higher with our second lodge opening for the 2022 season. Side-by-side lodges sitting on the cliff's edge with relaxing ocean views. With direct flights departing through the CBX in San Diego, we are committed to providing first-class service to our guests and an unforgettable fishing experience. Come check out the Yellowtail and Calico bass capital in the world. Nobody does it better than Cedros Sport Fishing. Call me at 619-772-7570 or check us out at cedrosportfishing.com.
Inside information is everything when it comes to catching fish in Southern California. You need a code group to connect with what's happening on the water. FishDope.com is your code group. Inside information available at your fingertips 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. FishDope.com really does help you catch more fish and burn less fuel. FishDope.com is the only fish finding service with a spotter plane, along with a crew of top anglers on the water almost every day that report actual locations and catches. They become your code group. You get daily catch reports from Point Conception to San Catine, 365 days a year. FishDope.com has online planning tools, temperature and chlorophyll charts, hot bite icons, and more. Take it from me, if you don't have FishDope.com, you're not part of the in-the-know crowd. Membership is affordable and good for an entire year. Plus, use the special code and save $30 on a new FishDope.com membership. Check it out today. FishDope.com. Catch more fish, burn less fuel.
The lighter the bite and the cleaner the water means one thing. Need a thinner leader, more natural presentations. That's where Seaguar Gold Label leader material shines. It's Seaguar's thinnest leader material yet. That means it's even less visible underwater and creates more natural presentations for better catch rates on leader-shy fish. With exceptional knot and tinsel strength, this advanced leader material is now available from 2-pound test for fishing trout in the Sierra to 80-pound test for big yellowfin in Guadalupe. Get Seaguar Gold Label at your favorite tackle dealer or learn more at seaguar.com.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup. We're going to have Eric flip the prize coin. Go for it on the deck there. Texter, and today is Mike. Mike from San Diego. Congratulations.
Man, how cool, Mike. Congratulations on that. And you got yourself a brand new reel.
Dude.
Eric, this was great, man. Really, really enjoyed getting to hang and talk fishing with you. Some fantastic information for all of our listeners out there, myself included. Had a lot of fun and really, really enjoyed you spending the time with us, bro.
Well, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, really cool. Looking forward to doing it again. And let's get Matt in here.
Yeah, next time we'll definitely do it.
Yeah.
And maybe we won't have Cory here.
Right?
Yeah. You need to hog the microphone.
Yeah, we need better fishermen by far.
Matt can do the ads.
Hey, if somebody does want to keep in touch with all your great reports, I mean, you want to talk about the common theme, and I know Cory was the same thing, like trying to find a text message to read this morning that wasn't the same thing. Oh my God, I love these reports. I love the YouTube channel. I love this. Keep it up. Everybody really into it. How do we find that? How do we keep in touch
so
with
you
your
just go
reports?
to BD Outdoors on YouTube. I have a weekly report. It's up on Thursdays, normally around 7 p.m. I talk fishing. I talk about my dogs. I give really bad advice. I talk about being a fat man in a hot garage. A lot of different stuff. But I also write every month in Pacific Coast Sport Fishing, Tide Magazine, Saltwater Sportsman, and whoever else will have me.
That's awesome, buddy. Well, a fantastic job, and it was really fun. And yeah, certainly looking forward to keeping up with all those reports. You do a fantastic job, and I want to say it too, man. Keep it up. It's really good, and it's great info for all of us.
Thank you. I'm no Tony Bangos, but you guys will have to bear with me.
That's pretty fun. Well, Cory, a fun one today for sure, too. I look forward to doing it again tomorrow. Tomorrow, another great show. Captain Bruce Smith is going to be joining us from East County Bait and Tackle. We're going to be talking all kinds of great fishing, inshore, offshore, freshwater, and more. You stay tuned. It's Let's Talk Hookup. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 7 to 9 a.m. on the Let's Talk Hookup app, Facebook and YouTube Live, and 97.3 The Fan.